From the heart of Africa's entrepreneurial frontier comes Foundersbattlefield, a podcast unveiling the raw journeys of bold visionaries. In episode 4, Seasons of Change, When to Hibernate and When to Blossom, join host Michael Anthony Masharia and trailblazing founders Kalani Sichangi, Teresa Njoroge, and Olive Gashara. Dive into Kalani's digital hustle, Teresa's unshakable resilience, and Olive's fearless adaptability as they reveal the art of timing, when to hustle, pivot, or pause. Through triumphs and setbacks, they light the way for your founder journey. Share with friends and colleagues on your social media channels. Happy watching, and let Foundersbattlefield light your founder journey.
Welcome to Foundersbattlefield. Today we are on our episode 4, and it's been an interesting journey from the beginning. And now, today I've got great guests, and we're going to pivot out of our natural technical conversations around Foundersbattlefield or founders' journeys. And today we're going to go more into an internal conversation, more internal-led. As a founder, some of the internal emotions you go through, and really non-technical, but more around seasons of change. And as an entrepreneur and a founder, you have moments when you know you need to hibernate, you know when to blossom. And even as you think about in our religion, in our religious ecosystems, we just came from Lent as Christians, or Muslims, you come from Ramadan. There's always a moment when you know you have to hibernate, take what we call your 40 days of fasting. I think also entrepreneurs and founders, we go through the same kind of journey where you know you need to regroup. Maybe it could be because of a significant event, could be because you realize you're too much out there, could also be because you just realize you need to pivot out of your current setup, or even sometimes reinvent yourself. So today we're our topic around seasons of change, when to hibernate and when to blossom. We'll touch on multiple things: how to conserve your energy. We're going to have conversations around how we go through these seasons. Aligning with people with similar energy. At some points, you need to come out from your comfort zone and embrace people who are going to help you through that season. Pivoting in silence. Sometimes you just need to say, I need to be quiet to know how to deal with the situation, and also how to leverage your weaknesses and also your challenges when things are not going as per plan, and also how to maintain mental balance as you go through this. With me, I have got interesting founders, very diverse in multiple domains. I'm going to introduce them shortly, and we hope by the end of the episode there will be some kind of aha moment for some of us founders, when you know even maybe today you need to take that break. Maybe today is when you need to start hibernating. Maybe you've been hibernating for too long. Maybe it's time to come out and blossom. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the guest. I'm Mike Masharia, the host for this show. Been in business for many years, 25 years, and this has been a constant battle for me in terms of when to reinvent myself. And sometimes I've had to go back, moments where I've had to take silent moments just to observe. And sometimes it can even take 2-3 months, even sometimes 6 months, where you're just trying to reevaluate, right? Your value systems, even sometimes just your business models, even sometimes just to regroup emotionally after having gone through, we've got heartbreaking moments, which is why we call it blood, sweat, and fears. And sometimes to deal with those fears, sometimes you need to just isolate yourself. So starting us on the set with me is Olive Gashara. Olive, I know for some time. She's a great person who wears multiple hats in multiple domains. She's going to introduce herself after that. But Olive, great to have you on set.
Thank you for having me.
So it'll be great to know how you pivoted your life. Essentially, I think you represent a generation of women who are going through that change, right? Having children or growing up or going through marriage or going through relationships, going through family, raising up, doing business at the same time, raising up children. I think it'll be interesting to have your perspective. And then next we have somebody who I met recently, and I was quite fascinated by his approach to things. Kalani Sichangi. I met him a few months ago, and in a forum where we had a lot of much older entrepreneurs, 50 plus, 40 plus. And I asked him, Kalani, what are you doing here? You are 20 what?
23.
He told me you're 23 or 24. What are you doing here? He told me, I'm an entrepreneur. I said, you've paid fees to come and learn this? He said, yes. And I thought to myself, I started my business at 25. So Kalani has a right, has a position to be here, because I hope somebody has given us this kind of encouragement. And when you think about it, we did, because we had mentors who gave us this journey. So we want to hear more from Kalani, and welcome.
Thank you.
And it represents a great population of younger people. We call them Gen Zs, and I know they don't. We call them, in our business, we call them the collective and the academic, the kind of guys who have a different, their sphere of what they can do is very different from what we could do.
Yes.
The world is yours. So we will definitely want to hear more from you.
Looking forward.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then finally, I've got also a very interesting person I met recently, and we really had a great conversation. And she said, Mike, I want to participate in such an event, because I think it is something I've been looking for constantly, to be part and parcel of my journey and my story. Teresa Njoroge. Teresa, welcome.
Thank you.
Your story is also extremely inspiring and very profound. So I guess we have a very diverse group of people, you can imagine. Teresa is a social entrepreneur.
Yes, I am.
Kalani is trying to become an economic entrepreneur. Yeah, and you're an economic,
Yes.
You're not social entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll change at some point or have another business social entrepreneur. Olive, would you say you're an economic entrepreneur, or you think you're social, or both?
I think economic.
Economic.
Yeah.
So very interesting, because the rules that apply both for social entrepreneurship and also for economic entrepreneurship, basically, without realizing, are basically the same, right? And I'd like us to kick this off by really having a conversation around our personal journeys. As you introduce yourself, what you've done, I think what we found, our audience who have reached out to us say they love when we introduce ourselves with stories that speak deeper to us in our souls. When somebody thinks about Olive, it's easy for you to say Olive, and then you say, I do this. I want to relate to you with a personal story where I can feel and I relate to you. Okay? And maybe I could start with my personal story, because I think it helps bring context in our conversation, and also it helps you calm down, because sometimes you all get nervous when on set, and sometimes you say, what is a personal story I'm going to say that will bring things together? For me, I think when I think about seasons of change, and I think about when I need to hibernate and when to blossom, I'm going to give it. I think I'm going to give this story from a very interesting point of view. When I started my business, when I was 25 years, I think the power of youth is amazing, because youth allows you to think you can achieve everything. You don't there's no negative. You don't see any downside. You don't see any downside or anything you try and do. So every time you do any project, you know you're going to be successful. Okay? But the moments when, as you grow, okay, as a business when I started 25, my disappointments were not as many. Or maybe I handled disappointments much better. Now, what I found as I grew in my career as an entrepreneur, my first disappointments were when I went to pitch for a big project and I lost it. And I put everything in my soul to win that project, and we lost the project. The first thing was healing, that, my God, how could they do this to me? I was the best, They are not fair. Why are they playing unfair to me, right? That was in itself my first big lesson. And I started healing from, it's okay to have a project. It's okay to lose. It's a move on and win another and try it another day. And that to me was the first big lesson. The next big lesson for me as I grew was, I had this initiative where I'd hire very young people from university. I would even house them, put them in guest houses, work with them, build them. They almost became like my personal friends, right? Because I'm building these guys from school, right? Hiring from campus, going to their homes that I'm paying the rental, getting them, building them, seeing them getting married, okay? But the biggest disappointment was when somebody quits on me on email. And I'm thinking, my God, this guy, I don't know him. He's not my relative. I've done all this for him, and they've quit. How? On email. There wasn't WhatsApp for them to quit on WhatsApp. It was SMS. And I say, it used to break my heart. Like, it used to break my heart so much. And I realized, wow, I need to detach from this feeling. That was when I also realized that there are times when people will come in your life and they'll have to go when they serve their purpose. That was also a very big change for me, right? As I moved on in my journey in terms of when to take a back step and say, okay, these guys, they're great guys. We've become intimately connected, like friends. I attend their weddings, but they still have to go on with their careers. Today I meet them and there's no bitterness. I'm so happy because they tell me, Mike, I was part of your journey. You're part of my journey. Today I have a business I'm running. I am senior executive at this big corporate, and I learned this journey from you. So there is that journey I learned. Sometimes you have to let people go, right? And then as part of the business also, as you went along, is disappointments. You sign large contracts, or in the middle of a transaction, and you realize life is not fair, right? People are going to be unfair. People don't play fair to the game. There's a lot of dishonesty. There's a lot of mistrust. And you then came to this world thinking everything is just the way it should be, only for you to realize that it's not the way it looks. And that acceptance that life is not fair from that point of view was also another turning point for me, that I realized that, wow, I can have all the contracts I want. I can sign all the contracts I want to sign. They can be elaborate, whatever how many pages, but somebody somewhere will do what they need to do because they feel it's their right to do what they need to do. Whether it's legal or not legal, that's a different conversation, right? And that, at the same time, realizing that the safety net you had by thinking, I have built this big brand as a business, everybody knows me, then I ask myself, why would anybody want to destroy my business that I've built for 20 years? What's wrong with them? Can they understand this is a country, this is an icon, this is a project? We are a representation of what is possible. But somebody else doesn't see it. Somebody feels it's their right to do what they want to do. So for me, that also is another realization. And a moment when I had to go to my Moses in the mountain kind of situation and decide, my God, how will I handle this situation? And those are heartbreaking moments that make you go back and realize, I need to take a back step. How do I deal with this situation? Employees will come, will go. People you love most, who you've built a business with, they have to change careers. And you're thinking, this was my star employee. How do I regroup? So in the case of employees, I decided to build an academy, which I called Knowledge for Life. A lot of people passed through. I decided, okay, the way it's going, when you're in high seas, when you're in an ocean, and you're sailing with the winds, right? What happens? The boat will go towards the direction of the wind. So employees will come and go. So it's like wind. Talent will come and go. So how do I manage this sale? The only way to manage this sale is to create more sales. Yeah. So create an academy, train more people. So as people leave, they replenish your business. So that solves my problem. But that I had to regroup. I had to come back and figure out how do I deal with that issue. Yeah. It took time to figure out. Then moving on to look at disappointments of projects, to lose the projects. I said, realizing I figured out that the only way to win projects that I'm guaranteed, I need to architect these projects from inception. I need to be the only one with the capacity to execute this project, right? And that's how I ended up building massive projects. Because at some point, we were the only company capable at that price point to execute such large projects in the country. Even today, there are many companies that can execute projects that 7C Technologies could do in the market. Then we moved on to figure out how do you deal with a situation where you're trying to build a business and anything can happen. Then you diversify risk. You start realizing there's country risk. Yeah, you have a country risk issue. You start realizing, do I keep my business, all my eggs in one country as a business? Do I diversify and start creating what you call structures that allow me to export intellectual property at a global level? Right? Good and bad, but you can only do that when you take a back step. And also removing yourself from the comfort zone of people you're constantly with, right? People who can give you a different perspective of what you need to do. That is now from our point of view. I'm sure we're going to touch on this as we go along, but I think it is giving you a little bit of perspective of what we want to discuss. How do you regroup? How do you look at new tactics? How do you think through a problem? And how does a problem become an opportunity? Okay? And how also do you grow internally as an individual, right? In terms of accepting stuff by going through it. You have to go through fire to accept, right? And I think I leave it now to the floor, and maybe I'd like to start with today I'll go clockwise. With Teresa, Teresa, your conversation when we met, we had a very good conversation around many things. And I think there's a lot of alignment around a lot of things in terms of when you regroup, when you come out stronger, when you rethink what you need to do. So it would be great for you to share your story with that level of context, to be able to inspire the next generation of people. Somebody could be watching, trying to figure out maybe the misfortune they have today could be an opportunity for them. So I want to leave you to sort of lead us through that conversation. Then we'll go clockwise as we look along. And there are many people definitely aspiring to listen to you, to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike, for that preamble. Indeed, in life, it's first and foremost, it's not a straight line. And there are all these things that come at you, good, bad. Just listening to you, I was thinking to myself that it is in those moments that, we're heartbroken, that things didn't go the way we had planned for them to work out. And you also touched on the comfort zone. It's in those moments when we are outside our comfort zone that we literally get to learn first who we truly are, and that we get the deep, deep gems of what is inside of us and the beauty that we can bring into the world. Because in my case, in my situation, what happened is, so first and foremost, I started out in the banking sector. And I worked within the banking sector for about a decade. And this is the space and area that I had truly wanted to grow my career in, only to hit a bump when I handled a fraudulent transaction unknowingly. And the worst case scenario that I had imagined would come out of handling this fraudulent transaction was maybe getting fired or not continuing to grow my career within the banking sector. And then the worst happens. I get arrested, falsely prosecuted, which then leads all the way to a wrongful incarceration. So you're thinking to yourself, hold on here. I was growing a banking career, doing all the right things, a law-abiding citizen in Kenya. And here I am sitting at the largest correctional facility for women in this country with my firstborn daughter, Omar. What is going on? And yet, I'm in this situation because I have decided to stand by my values. So even as we're having this conversation, I want to emphasize the issue and area around values, because a lot of this conversation will revolve around entrepreneurship. I believe that when you know your values first and foremost, it's very easy for you to make your decisions, because I was given a lot of opportunities to pay bribes and get out of the situation. But why am I paying a bribe for something even those arresting me are saying, we know you did not commit this crime? So standing by your values, and that has continued to define the decisions that I make, my journey, and I know we're going to get into it. And, even as my colleagues introduce, my co-panelists get to introduce themselves, I'd like to say that as part of my introduction, it was sitting in prison, to your point, around knowing when to hibernate, knowing when to blossom, because life is lived in times and seasons. Do you know the time and season you're in life, in business, and in other areas? I mean, that's the question that we need to keep asking ourselves over and over again, because you cannot thrive out of season. If you're not in season, then it's not the right time to kickstart that idea or to kickstart that business. You thrive in season. So knowing your times and seasons in life is very important. I'm Teresa Njoroge, founder, CEO, Clean Start Africa. Thank you for having me.
Great. Teresa, your story, as you said, seasons, and, my mom always tells me, Mike, your season's going to come. Mike, just relax, right? Your season will come. And sometimes I think, I used to ask myself, I'm here. And now, as you said, in silence, you start really accepting. You reach a certain age of 50, you start really appreciating what your parents tell you.
Yeah.
When they tell you quiet is gold, just start listening to yourself. It is really amazing. So, but sometimes you have to go through that crucible moment.
Yes.
To force you to be quiet. Some people, it's an accident. Mm-hmm. You're in hospital alone. Yeah. It's a terminal disease, or sometimes a disease that keeps you in a hospital for 3 weeks, or 1 month, or 5 months. Yeah. Some people, it's losing whatever they need to lose that makes them quiet, and the noise goes. So it's interesting, and we're going to come to that. And I think for Sichangi, even transiting to Sichangi, for instance, you're younger. Today, there's a lot of noise, and definitely the social media ecosystem helps propagate information faster. There's a lot of learning you're doing today, much faster than we learned. AI is here. You can set up a business much faster. You can raise capital from people you don't know through social networks. So how, in your business and in your life, how are you handling this? And how do you keep quiet in such a noisy world? There's so much. When you open your phone, there's so much to see. There's so much happening. Like, my God, this is too much, right?
Yes.
How do you keep quiet in an era where you've been brought up with all this noise?
I think to give context, being the CEO of a group, I've had to traverse a lot of the experiences which you've mentioned. So I think from one being a sole proprietor, moving into having a small startup, into running an enterprise, and all of these changes require you to have a lot of self-assessment. So I think having a supreme knowledge of self helps you understand when should I make noise, what needs to be made noise about. And some of these things can only be learned through execution. I think once you understand that social media is a tool, you understand how to use your tools better. A hammer is not adequate, or is not an adequate tool for every task. So what task am I trying to achieve? Am I doing a business-to-business venture? Am I doing a business-to-consumer venture? In what space am I making noise in? Because not all noise is meaningful. I think sometimes you can listen to music. Other times our neighbor is hammering something into the wall. So is your noise meaningful? And that self-assessment helps you determine what, from where you sit, is it fame I'm looking for? Is it wealth I'm looking for? Is it the validation of my peers I'm looking for? And what's meaningful to me? Do I want to be wealthy? Do I want to be famous? Do I want to be a social entrepreneur? Do I want to be an economic entrepreneur? And what does that require of me then? I think that becomes a very good rubric to use.
Interesting. As you say that, I was just thinking about something you've said, and coming back to later what Teresa said. One day, and maybe one day, and I'll tell that story as we move to Olive. One day when I was really having my own crisis with customers and with my large government customer, I would open the newspaper. I'm driving to work. I would look. Somebody would forward me an article. I say, "What is this? Like, what is this?" I read it. I say, "This is too untrue," right? Then I'll be driving, and then we'd go. My son would be, then he was maybe 7 years. When I come maybe to Peponi, at that junction, you'd look. The newspaper guy would come to your screen.
To your window.
And you see the window there, sorry. And then you see your picture, headline. You say, what is this headline business? Yeah, what is this about? Then you figure out, why don't I buy? But you know the story. And you don't even have the bandwidth to read it. As you now drive off, a few minutes later, the young one tells you behind, Baba, you're on there. Why didn't you buy the newspaper? I saw you. And you think, hey, what did he just tell me? And you drive off, and you eventually, definitely, then you start realizing that in this season, as I'm going through this, should I be quiet? Because other people are going to own the story for you. Are you going to be the one to own the story? And I remember driving off that day as we drove towards Sarit Center, I told myself, I will own this story. I don't care about this remaining hibernated. I will blossom in this chaos. You see, now for myself, I said, now let's take this war to the streets. Is that correct? Because I realized these people are going to take me down to my grave here. Let's take the war to the streets. The way it goes, it goes. I have nothing to lose anymore. Let's take it to the streets. So sometimes also, as you're saying, sometimes even when you think you need to hibernate, maybe that's the time when you need to be out of this barrel. Okay, so Olive will come to that. As I'm just give an example of we need somebody somewhere could be thinking right now, should I just remain quiet here in my own small house? I don't come out. I don't go to I'm not seen in public. Maybe that's the time you need to be out. So Olive, over to you.
Well, you've left it hanging. Okay.
What do you know? It's really your story about.
Okay.
It's really your story about when you think about do I hibernate, when to blossom? Because you're also a public person.
Yeah.
You're not. I wouldn't say you're not public person.
Yes. That's
The moments you've hibernated, the moments I see Olive, I see a lot of stuff you're doing. The moments I just see you've gone.
I know. Then
Quiet.
you appear and people wonder where you are.
Yes, then you wonder, hey, what happened to her? Start saying what happened to her. Anyway, your story.
So my name is Olive Gashara. I am an image and brand consultant, and I'm also the founder of Couture Africa, which is a luxury media and events house, amongst many, many other things. But those are the two sort of main brands that people know me for. And I wear many hats to that extent. I have been in business, I think, now for 20 years, which is a long time.
Yes.
So when I hear it's 23, I'm like, where? Anyway, so I've been in business for 20 years, and in those 20 years, I've done many things. And I think when I started, first of all, entrepreneurship was not a thing. Everyone was just a business person, right? And I was doing maybe 2 or 3 things, and people would almost judge you. They're like, but why are you doing so many things? Huh? In fact, I remember even within our family, they're like, achana na mtoto wa Gashara. That one is not focused. She doesn't know what she wants. But then now, 10 years in, wearing many hats becomes the trend. And I'm like, well, guys, I kind of knew this before. You all knew this. So I think my story, I don't know if I should get into it in detail. But
Yes, sure. That's what we want. We've seen unfiltered stories.
So my story or the change in my career has been very organic, right? And when it comes to seasons of change, it can be triggered by 2 things. It can be triggered by something negative, or it can be triggered also by something positive. And I believe, especially when things are going good in your business, they always say sell when you're at the top, right? So when things are going well, maybe it's your cue to now use that success to pivot into something else even better. You get what I mean? As opposed to waiting to say, okay, let me ride this for as long as it can go. Then, because business is plateau. So you all know the trend. So when you're at a plateau, that's always your moment to pivot, right? So my first business was a modeling agency. No, first I started by selling flowers, which was like a hustle after high school. That's a whole story that I'll get into hopefully later. But maybe the transition, so you can see the changes, was I started a modeling agency. This was because just after high school, I did a beauty pageant called Miss Malaika. And then after that, people would start, once you're in that space, you start being called for fashion shows. And then people would ask, do you know any other models that you can come with? That was the time I was selling flowers. And that was just, the flowers thing was an opportunity. So then I would think, okay, so if I come with these other 3 people, how do modeling agencies work? Because I know they exist, right? So if I come with 3 other people, I can charge a commission. And that means if you're being paid 10K each and I'm taking 20%, that means that I get, if you do the math, I walk away with about, 16K as opposed to just 10K? Okay, so let's do that. So I started the modeling agency and it picked up really fast. I think it was the right time. At that time, there were no agencies that were focusing on fashion models, hostesses, etc. Promo girls. It was not a thing. It was mostly advertising, and I think that's why they were always looking. So opportunity started that, and then I got very quickly into the fashion space. And you'd get an opportunity, or guys would ask, okay, so as you're doing this event, can we do a fashion show? Can you produce a fashion show? So, you say, yes, I can, and then you go and figure out how to do it. So like, yes, of course we can. Then you go and you start calling Akina Microbus saying, could you come and do a stage? Then when they're doing it, you're like, so what else do I need? So you figure it out and you put it together. So that's how we got into starting to organize fashion events. And then because of that, I started working with a lot of people in the fashion and design space, and I quickly became a stylist, a makeup artist and a stylist. So, you're 21, 22, you have all the energy in the world. When people are spending their time out hanging, I was busy trying to figure out not just how to make money, but how to do innovative things. That's what was interesting for me, right? And so as I go into fashion, I remember actually at some point in my life, I was torn between makeup and styling. And the reason I started doing makeup was because when you're doing portfolios for these models, they can't do their own makeup. And we don't have money to hire a makeup artist. I'm like, so how hard can this thing be? Let's go buy a makeup kit and then we shall figure it out, right? So did that for a little bit. And I think this was now 3, 4, 5 years of running around Nairobi. And it was fun times. Everybody knew Olive for fashion. In fact, people still think, or for some reason, people think I'm a fashion designer. I've never known why. Anyway, so along the way, as I was approaching my mid-20s, I was thinking, now what? This is not particularly sustainable, right? I don't think I'm going to be running around Nairobi like this all my life. Just, it was a lot of physical work. Mm-hmm. So I then discovered image consultancy, right? And started looking for places where I could study this. And I eventually traveled to go and study image consultancy. Meanwhile, I did my executive bachelor's. So I was still, education, your mother wants a degree. Mm-hmm. So, you go, you get your degree, you give it to her. Mm-hmm. So I went and did my image consultancy and came back. And again, I sort of felt, if you look at the West at that time, this is now about 15 years ago. If you look at the West at that time, image consultancy and training was a very big thing, but it was not big in Kenya or in Africa. So business was doing well. The styling business was doing well. The modeling agency, hectic. We started doing promo girls, merchandisers. People are calling you at 2 a.m. because, the models that you've sent for that Heineken promo, I don't know where, they've disappeared. It's just madness. Some people are cut out for this thing, some people are not. Anyway, so I felt there's an opportunity in the training space. And it was mostly because as much as we're doing these events, these very glamorous, beautiful events, how is that helping like Jane and Mary and Mwangi and, how is that helping the real person? So from a styling perspective, I felt that doing something like image consultancy gives a bit more depth to my skill set, right? Because now I can come and I can sit with you, Teresa, and I can help you dress for your body shape. I can help you figure out how to do your makeup, figure out how to do your hair that works for you, how to dress professionally. I can help Mike get suits that fit him. So I'm not just doing stuff for magazines and for runways. I can now actually start helping people, right? So got into image consultancy. And I remember when I was doing my training, my lead trainer was, I think she was celebrating her 60th birthday. No, sorry, I get that wrong. She was celebrating her 50th anniversary of her business. Mm-hmm. So she was a sure, old British lady. This was the image consultants of back in the day. And that sort of gave me affirmation, like, yeah, this is the right thing. This is like your long-term biashara. You'll do many other things, but you'll always be a consultant. Mm-hmm. And that sort of still remains true till today. So now came back, set up, at that time it was called Image with Olive Consultancy, which we now rebranded to IWO for the purpose of growth, right? Because Image with Olive is very olive. We're like, okay, how do you scale? How do you expand that? Then now I like to say some consultants write books. I started a magazine. Because on this side now you have all this information in your head about fashion, style, dressing for your body shape, beauty. You have so much information. So now what do I do with all of that information? And because of my styling background and working with magazines, I was like, okay, maybe there's an opportunity here to start my own magazine. And I remember initially I was actually positioning myself to franchise a brand in Kenya. And we did all the work, we raised money, we did everything. But then now when it came to the financials or closing the deal with that particular brand, things were not working out properly. So like, okay, then this one guy, and I'll never forget, he's called Kalti. He sat down and he told me a story about how various brands, especially guys who do international franchises from the US into SA, he told me a story about this one guy who grew an American franchise for 15, 20 years. And when it was at its most successful, they just refused to renew it. And then they came into the country and they did it themselves. And so he asked me, so you, Olive, and he's telling me this, by that time we were on vacation in Swahili Beach, me and Mr. were hanging out. He's like, so you, Olive, as you're doing all of these things, you put in so much effort, so much thought. Do you want to do a franchise or just build your own brand? You're young. You have the time to create something from nothing. And Kenya is such a virgin market, right? So it's like, okay, so we'll do our own thing. So we went, sat down, and now started thinking, we're doing a magazine. What name shall it be? And that's how Couture Africa was born. I was actually very surprised that there was no magazine in existence in the whole world called Couture Africa. I was like, really? Okay. So that's how Couture was born. So again, pivoting, right? You're finding success in one thing, and you're like, okay, how do we then now break that into the next thing? Then I'll continue the rest of the story later. But that's just to give you an idea of, in my mind, is change doesn't have to be triggered by a negative event. It can also be triggered by either your ambition for growth. Sometimes you grow to a point where even you know as an individual, for example, with my training, the growth of the consultancy firm is limited to individuals. But then once you start a media house, that becomes exponential. And that's now when you start making money when you're asleep, right? So also just realizing opportunities to change and to pivot when things are ripe, when things are doing really well, to build on the strengths and the foundation you already have. Yeah.
And it's interesting because you talked about your story is about a roller coaster growth. And I can relate with you so well. Because when I look at between 25 when I started my business and 43, I just used to think I had a Midas touch.
I know, right?
I just used to think I touch, it works. I touch, it works. Surely. So don't even start realizing risk anymore. What risk? This can't really happen to me. How can it happen to me?
I used to think, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen?
Oh, it really happens.
Some bad things can happen.
That's the time you become spiritual, like there's no tomorrow.
I know.
You say, things are bad, or even you say, hey, where is God?
I know.
God should be with me here. And we have an episode about spirituality, actually, as a matter of fact. And that brings me to the conversation because as we now table this, and really as you expand your business, thanks for that. I think Teresa and Sichangi is about expanding now your horizon about your business and what you do as an individual, and in terms of scaling, and in terms of how to pivot in these moments. There are moments when to hibernate, right? And I've just tried to write them down here. And something you said very interesting, your value system. Yeah. Something you said, value system. Do you know there are moments when you're going to hibernate? Because the value system around you, your value system, and the value system around your ecosystem is not aligning. Yeah. You just say, hey, this place, me and this situation is not working for me. You're in conflict with your soul. Yeah. Anytime you leave your house, you're thinking, geez, anytime I leave my decision-making process, my value system is in conflict with everything around me. That's the time you need to hibernate and think, do I really need to be in this situation, right? You know that can happen.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in a business where every day you leave, you have to bribe somebody. Yeah. You're against bribing. But everything, your whole business, from the moment you leave the gate, you're bribing. And you're constantly thinking like, I can't do this anymore, right? That's when to hibernate, right? Or when the tone of the market, and I would like to hear stories around, when the tone, I'm giving you some cues, when the tone of the market you feel, this is not for me. Yeah. This vibe is not for me, You go online, there's so much, bile, people are fighting. Now we like getting into this business. Sometimes online especially can really make you get a point where you don't even feel you need to be in this business.
I think at the time I was 18 years old, I was working with some of the biggest artists in the world. I think the first business I did was entertainment. And so very quickly, your peers' idols, you're being mentioned in the same sentence. This person is bringing X for a concert in Nairobi. And to a certain extent, we've sold out even tickets. You're waiting for bar numbers and money's in the account. So you know you're good. And the night before, or talks of cancellation begins, the morning of, it's cancelled. So technically, you already know you're gone clear. So you've come from being the people's champion to, I paid you to bring my favorite artist to Nairobi. And now the morning of, you're telling me it's cancelled. So you've gone from this demigod to the how do I say, the class clown very quickly. People even tell you shouldn't show your face anywhere. And you don't have much experience in life to know that this is a season that will pass. When you're 18 years old, it feels like your life is over. And so it then teaches you, I think, at what point do you reassess or do a self-assessment? Is what they're saying true? Does it actually speak to reality? And if it's not, should I then speak up for myself? And even in speaking for myself, should I do it through action or through words? Because for me personally, I chose I'll step out, actually continue to build this business, which is now successful and even has subsidiaries under it. And I think I proved to the market through my action, not even my words, several years later, that I'm who I claimed to be. So that's just a context in which probably also your value system of, do I enter a mud-slinging competition online? And especially as an executive, I'm not the average individual that you find online, or I have larger aspirations than the average individual. So can I then partake in the average individual's activities online?
That's a good one. Yeah, because when you put yourself in that position, then you don't know who is the pig, who is the mud.
Yes.
Everybody, all of you guys look like you're in the same mud, right?
Yes.
That's interesting for Teresa, because at what point does your emotional state change to warrant you to say, now I'm going to blossom? Because that's what I think it requires. It's from your stomach, it's your gut feel that tells you, now, this one I'm going to fight. It's almost like a fight for life.
Yeah.
At what point, I would love to hear your story. At what point did you pivot to say, now enough of chilling?
Yes.
I need to get out of this chaos.
Exactly. And as you say, our genius and our best creativity, the most genius creativity that we have, it lies inside of us. And to the question that you had asked around all the noise around you, for me, being incarcerated and sitting still, I had myself. And that's what happens when you're in the midst of things, flowing with the flow, and in a world that celebrates, momentum, movement, the matrices of numbers. We don't have the luxury to sit still and hear ourselves. And I had myself. And, the higher the calling, or the higher this thing that you want to do,
The bigger the challenge, the higher the calling.
and most essential is the clarity that will only come from you, because there's no manual that you will then come out of this thing and go reading. These are now the next steps. You are the one to shine the North Star, where we're going, how we're going, and how we're going to do this. And to your story, Mike, around reading about yourself in the newspaper. So at this time when I'm thinking...
Not positively, they've just...
Exactly. And
you're in the... done research.
No, and people are believing what they are reading in the newspapers. So I'm reading about myself in the newspapers, bank manager thief. Teresa Wanjikonjoro. And I'm like, that's me. And that's not true. And I want to say that, yes, there's that time to hibernate, be still, listen to yourself, hear yourself, and dig down deep inside to that creative genius of what you're about to do. But as much as there's that side of things, there's also knowing that it's in chaos that growth, you cannot just sit still and say, first and foremost, growth comes uninvited. It's not going to come and say, oh, you're going to be growing at this particular time. This is how you need to prepare. You will not be ready. And you know what? Do not wait for things all the ducks to be, in a row. Let me tell you, growth and success, it's knot by knot, pile by pile. That's how you do it. It won't come all well packaged together. Now it's the time for me to grow, and, don't wait for when is Teresa feeling ready to now go and do what is in her. In the midst of the newspaper reporting, bank manager thief, in this chaos is when I'm also coming to say, this is my story. I did not steal. I was jailed wrongfully. And you know what? I'm establishing an organization called Clean Start Africa to give myself a clean start, and the other millions of other women that you have jailed in there wrongfully. And this is how we're going to ride this chaos together. As you're reporting the negative news, here I am rewriting and in charge of the narrative. At the end of the day, truth does not need defending. It always comes on top. The genuine ingenuity, the genius that's in you, it will always come on top.
Wow. And that's how you started Clean Start Africa.
And that's how I established Clean Start Africa.
The core of your, you knew it was time. And it is an interesting conversation. I'd like really to speak to a little bit more as we move into that conversation. You know, when I met Sichangi, and I'm going to go to Olive shortly, when I met Sichangi, when we met in Mombasa,
Yes.
is it Diani? And then we sat sitting there, I'm wondering, this guy is telling me about events. I'm listening. And he told me about this event where he brought all these A-stars and everybody, and you guys are young, borrowed money from your parents, friends and family. You knew you were going to have this big concert.
Yes.
And then nobody showed. The artist never showed.
Yes.
And that, I thought, to me, was the way you recover. You told me how you had to recover. It broke your heart.
Yes.
And
Genuinely.
many people would have said, I'm never going to go to the event business again.
Yes.
Right? For you, what is that feeling? What made you? What is that thing? What is that emotion that triggered you? Was it ego to say, I'm going to prove to them? Was it a sense of purpose? I know what I'm doing. If things happen, was it encouragement from a third party told you, don't give up? What made you go back to that ring?
I think a phrase to put it would be, I didn't come this far to come this far. I think by the time I had reached the level of older individuals having the confidence in me at that age to give me that kind of money, or give me and my peers that kind of money, the work had started well before. And in a matter of hours, it was then undone. So I have a long life ahead of me. There's still, I think, room to pivot, as Olive was saying. So what is it that I want for myself? And recollecting all the times it had gone right, I think gave us a better, give us a better frame of mind, in that there are so many things that we've done right up until this point. There's one thing that has gone wrong outside of our control. What should we change in our business, or what are the changes that need to be made for us to execute smarter and probably in a more profitable way? So I think some of it is like contracting. I think on the first episode you talked on trust. So that's a breach of contract that happened. So how do we contract better as entrepreneurs and as businesses? And that's one key takeaway, and that's the reason I call it a blessing, because today I sign ironclad contracts in all my businesses, because I've lost actual money out of errors that have happened before. Yeah. Interesting.
And that, I think, only you have ridden the wave in terms of, as you said, blossoms. You know, you're constantly riding the wave because you're in one business, you go to the next business, you go to the next business. It's interesting I would like to understand, and even all of us to understand, how do you know that it's time to pivot? How do you know it's time that I've exhausted where I am? I need to now make change. What is that thing in you that rings? Is it the kind of people you associate yourself with? Okay? Is it an inherent family thing that your family is entrepreneurial? You know, families could be entrepreneurial. And you see it from your family, or you see it from your spouse, and you say, is that correct? What do you think is that inherent DNA in you that keeps on making you see that opportunity and blossom? Because not many people can do it. Some people were going to do it 3 times, fail. Some people will let's go, we are moving. What is that thing about you? What did you say are the fundamentals that make you remain in that constant change of seasons?
So first, I believe, as you talk about fail, I believe that business people try many things, but then they never talk about the things that didn't work. They talk about the things that worked, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way, we've tried many things. Some of them didn't work. You're like, okay, that one, but you fail fast and you fail quickly. So you're like, okay, so let's say you try to go into, I don't know, we did the merchandising thing for a little bit. I was not good at it. It was too hectic. When it comes to, you mentioned values, there's a lot of, in the advertising, there's a lot of money in that promo business, a lot. And there's also a lot of bribery. So I'm like, I'm just not good at this thing. Me, I can't. You're like, okay, so Olive, I need, just do the math. I need, we have a promotion for, let's say, give me a brand, a random mass market brand.
Yes.
Yeah. So
maybe bread or whatever. Yeah?
Yeah. So there's a promotion for this bread, right? And so we need 2 girls in every Tuskies. How many Tuskies are there in the country?
Many.
Many. Well, it doesn't exist anymore. But so you need 2 girls in these 200 supermarkets every day, 5 days a week, and they'll be paid 3,000 bob a day, right? And you're taking your 500 shillings. So you're making 500 by 2, you're making 1,000 shillings from each shop every day, and there's 200, so you're making 20,000 shillings every day, 5 days a week for 2 months. As in, let me tell you, the numbers were fantastic. But then, because Mike is giving me that gig, he knows what those numbers look like. And he's saying, in fact, the client, his budget is 3K per chick, but these chicks don't know. So we just give them a G, we keep that 2 Gs. And then that 2 Gs, me and you, we take a G. Right? It's very simple mathematics. Everyone is happy. You go and buy a Range Rover tomorrow. So certain things, so there are many things that we try that are not particularly successful. And when you see they don't either align with your values, they don't align with your hustle, because I think it's a hustle thing. You're like, there's people have different types of hustles in them. And there's some things that I just can't do, right? So you pivot very quickly. So you don't dwell on it, or you try to do it you don't spend too much time trying to become a different type of person to make something work, right? But to answer your question, is when you find that one thing that works, you take that wave and you ride it as high and as fast as possible. The thing that has always drawn me to pivot to the next thing is first personal growth, because the person that I was when I was 19, starting my first business, is not the person I was when I was 25, going to do my image consultancy training. As an individual, I had grown. My values, I started thinking, how can I add value to the people around me? How can I help Teresa? As opposed to just making her look at fabulous fashion shows, how can I actually help her as a person? So as an individual, I was growing. And as I grow as an individual, I'm thinking, okay, how does my business grow with me? Because I think it got to a point where I quickly decided, since I'm an entrepreneur, this is the thing, so I may as well be good at it, right? And milk it for all it's got. My family is a family of professionals, by the way. My parents were doctors. My eldest brother is an engineer. My 2 brother and sister are lawyers. I was meant to be the doctor in the family. So then they're all professionals. But I sort of figured, so if I'm being an entrepreneur, let me be good at this thing, right? And they say a jack of all trades is a master of none, but is still better than a master of one. Isn't there? So then you continue growing. And as you continue growing, there's also a need to make more money, and to make money while you're sleeping. So like, okay, what else can I do to earn more income, to help us make more money? Because now you've put in systems, you've put in tools. I remember my first business, the modeling agency, our accounting was terrible. But then as you start the next business, you're like, this one, I'll do it better. You have your career, you have your career stuff in line. So as you grow, you're also getting more educated about how to do things and how to do them well, right? So you're like, okay, so I can do this and I can do it nicely. So now let me apply this knowledge to the next business. Then I remember during COVID, we tried 3 or 4 businesses. None of them worked. And you're like, okay, that's fine. We still have these 2 brands that are working. So it's okay. We continue talking about these ones that are working. The ones that didn't work, we take our learnings from them. We spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of money. I'm sure even you have like 5 or 6 biasharas that you tried. They didn't really go so well, but you're like, you know what, it's fine. You focus on Ponea, the successful one, right? So as you're growing, or as you're developing as an individual, now what we tried to do during COVID was, how do we automate this money-making thing? So that it's not print is, or rather media, you still have to put in work to get the returns. You have this big team, and media is expensive to run. So I'm like, okay, now I need something leaner. Something that can make money but not cost so much, because this making money is very expensive. And as media people, we've gotten burnt many times, people complaining on the internet that we're taking too long to pay them. It's happened to everyone, because cash flow in the media business is the worst. You need to pay for almost everything upfront, and agencies and clients will pay you in 90 days or even 120. It's terrible. I don't know how that business model became even an acceptable business model. But anyway, so it's really, I think to answer your question now, to wrap it all up, it was first personal growth. As you grow as an individual, your desire or the value that you want to give to society changes and matures with you. And then, of course, developing your avenues of making money. Yeah.
Interesting. And I think this also brings, it's going to be an interesting next 10 minutes, just talking about the country as a whole. Some entrepreneurs say it's my time to eat because it's my season to eat. So their way of blossoming is politically it's their time to eat. Yeah? Others say it was your time to eat. Is that correct? I've interesting people who tell me You, in Uhuru's government, you are blue-eyed. I say, blue-eyed what? Hey, how did Uhuru being in government make a difference in my life? I did it because I was good at what I did, right?
Yeah.
So even if sometimes comments online, somebody says, politically benefiting. I say politically benefit by who, how? I can't even understand what they're even talking about. So let's talk about the political season. And sometimes are there moments when you feel the energy in the country is for you or against you? It's an interesting question. When do you know that politically this time, the energy in the country is for me, I'm going to grow? And then at some point, some businessmen will say, founders will say, hey, let me go to a new market. So you find somebody in that period has gone to Congo.
Yes.
He's never even been to Congo in his life. He just said, hey, what have been in the Congo, man? And Congo, he's going to find himself there, and he has taken off. Some people have excelled globally because of just changing markets. Because the market, they know this place, if I stay, I'm over. Is that correct? So and it's interesting for you guys, how does the political season, like in your case, Teresa, you know what you went through. Chichang, you're a young person. Maybe I'm not sure how many political seasons you've seen.
Yes.
Regime.
Just one.
Yeah, one. Me, I've seen many. I've started Kibaki. No, I started Nyayo. Nyayo was at the tail end because I started 2000.
Yes.
So Nyayo, I had 2 years. But me, when I started 2 years, let me tell you, I just went to Rwanda. What?
Yes.
You could not do anything here.
Yeah.
I just went to Rwanda. So my first customer was in Rwanda.
Wow.
And I came here during Kibaki's time. We grew. And then during Uhuru's time, we went to Zambia, Nigeria, a lot of that kind of growth.
Yes.
And now we are a totally different realm of how I think we need to be doing what we're trying to do. We're trying to think digital businesses where you create global IP that you can sell to other markets. So if I'm talking to a customer in Congo, I'm talking to a customer in Philippines, it's not nothing to do with the country. Whether or not the political regime support me or not, I'm really not interested. If
Yes.
they do. It's good, it's great. If they create for us economic structures that work for us, then it's great, the country grows.
Yes.
You see also you're maturing and also realizing sometimes your seasons of growth and hibernation could be country driven.
Yes.
See? For you guys, how has it been?
I think probably because you challenged me. From really inspecting politics, it's just the consensus of the general public. I think as a country, we went through a period in which last year, where the Gen Z were being challenged, and a more mature audience or decision makers became alive to a whole age bracket that was previously never considered in the making of enterprise decisions. So a lot of the large corporates never used to market to that age group. Even from a decision making perspective, politicians never used to go and campaign to that age group. And now they become alive, they become aware of this whole new bracket that they need to cater to. And that then becomes a large opportunity for you as an entrepreneur, because they don't understand this demographic. They need somebody to be able to translate to that language. Somebody who understands what do these people want. Because frankly, I don't get it from where I am as a 40-year-old decision maker in my ivory tower.
40-year-old, no, still like 55.
55-year-old decision maker, and even leave 55, even just say mid-management, marketing manager of a brand in a brewer somewhere. I don't understand how to sell to this demographic.
Kids.
And that now can become a whole agency business that you can make. Mine is just to translate what these people are saying or what it is they want, and packaging it for the people who have or people who have the spending power to come and let's say spend money in my marketing agency or in my advertising agency, because that's what my specialty is. I'm part of that demographic. So you might not experience many regimes, let's say Kibaki, Moi, Uhuru, but once you see a gap in the market, or you see there's a place in which you can add value by, let's say, clarifying perspectives or distilling your point of view, then it becomes an opportunity for you to, let's say, milk, or it can be really lucrative, or people will spend big money on you or on your perspective. Yeah.
I think first and foremost, it's very unfortunate that from a political perspective, it's these people's time to eat, it's these other people's times to eat, because it's affecting the country at large adversely in very different ways. So it's very unfortunate that even you will thrive based on who are you aligned with in government, and is it now your time to eat? Is it not your time to eat? And when they're not in power anymore, you're no longer thriving. It's a very unfortunate environment, and it's my sincere hope and prayer that Kenya will get from those kinds of politics to, a scenario whereby we're here to grow and serve Kenya. And I truly love what I'm hearing about the upcoming mandamano for Ibrahim Toure, because of the incredible work that he's doing in Burkina Faso. But closer now to the work itself, of course, different regimes, like currently we are in a lot of debt. So therefore, government will do whatever needs to be done to collect taxes for us to then be able to service this debt, and so on and so forth. It affects you also when it comes to policies and laws. In my sector, we really have to look at, is this the time for us to make the progressive laws? Is this the time for us to hibernate because the progressive laws will not be accepted or have sponsors during this regime based on what are their values? For example, when you're using the criminal justice system to punish people who stand against your views, then that's not the right time to come and start saying, these are the progressive laws I want to bring into the country. You're standing in the way of that particular regime's style of leadership. So you also have to take those cues. And the world now, we're borderless. If it's not working again, because success is a lot more to do with timing in addition to all the other things that contribute to the success of a business. So again, understand the times and seasons and say, probably it's not my time right now in Kenya, but I will flourish in Burkina Faso or in South Africa or wherever else. Act local, serve local, but in the grand scheme of things, think continental-wise, global-wise, because, again, we're not producing or coming up with services just for a local market. I think we're way past that now. It's time to ride on all the incredible steps that have been taken by the people who came before us and ask ourselves, what's the next level that I'm taking this thing to, So case in point for us and the work that we do around women empowerment or systemic change and reforms within the criminal justice system and other agencies that are conjoined to that, you've got to ask yourself, what are the wins that have already been achieved by people who are there before? So where is it sort of do an audit that helps you understand what is the next level? What's the next level we can take this game to? And people sometimes fear, and we've talked about failure here. Failure is just communication. And when you're doubting, it's good communication to you that you're in the right space because you're not sitting in the comfort zone, So, you know what? I think, yes, gauging political-wise, what kind of a season, what kind of regime do we have? Also think to yourself, what other markets can you serve if the current one is not favorable to what you're currently doing? That's how I'd look at it.
But I see that also, it's a great way and it's a great conversation because that really, you have to be bold. I think the first thing is bold.
Yes.
And also realize that you don't have to live and die in the country you're born.
Exactly.
Like this thing, I'm going to die here with me and there's no other way. I think we, especially talking to younger people, and Sichangi and also people like Olive, and even what you're doing, Teresa, trying to look at ourselves as our platforms, having built your businesses in Kenya, and realizing that you can replicate what you're trying to do globally.
Exactly.
Now, when I started my business, you have to have a server room, you have to have emails. There's so much you had to do to set up a business. Hey, it used to be a lot of work. Today, let me tell you, you can set up a business. You can go to Amazon Cloud. You can build a data center globally. You can have your data seated globally.
Yeah.
You can have engineers seated around the world.
Yeah.
You can do AI. You can create a financial system that pays you, that doesn't have to sit here.
Yeah.
You can set up a company in Dubai. You can set up in Mauritius, a company in Mauritius without even having set up in Mauritius. Your IP can be owned globally. There's so much you can do today.
You can set up a whole business, 2 people sitting
Two
at
people.
home.
You don't have to worry anymore.
You don't have to go anywhere.
So I think that's something also that we need to start appreciating.
Yeah.
Yes.
That the world has been given you a much larger platform for you to operate under,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So when it started for me, I think giving an example, when I went through this whole government termination of my contract, I'm thinking like, oh my God, like how can they do this? 200 something people on a project, it's life changing for the country. How do their people operate like this? This is a project that would have been significantly transformation of the country. Today I'm seeing them running around Shashi, whatever. I'm not thinking, I just wish they'd done the project I told them.
Yes.
This project would have saved the country significantly. Then COVID found us when the project was meant to have been almost completed. So we would have easily transformed the country from a healthcare transformation point of view. More than earlier, we'd have done it a long time ago. Now every day I'm seeing project, systems, transformation. That's something we started doing in 2017-18. But then I told myself, okay, now what is this? I'm trying to help this country. It helps me. We grow together. See,
Yeah.
now
Yes.
where are we now? I'm losing.
Yeah.
They've not gotten anything.
Yeah.
They've been unable to do the project. They've never done it anyways. 5 years later, they still never did it. Our new government is trying to do it. It's another very challenging project. I know how complex that project is to do. It will be such a complex project to do. Because it takes the heart and soul of, to do a project like that requires a mental transformation of individuals
Yes.
in the whole healthcare sector. So I told myself, okay, my next business, I'll never allow myself to ever be here again. So when I took my recess, just thinking about the situation, how do I deal with this situation? I've lost so much money. Do I sue these people? Do I sue them? How do I operate here? Are they going to pay me? Some people are arguing, even if you sue them, they'll never pay you anyway. So you're wasting your time. But I'm thinking it's out of principle.
Yeah.
It's not out of money. It's out of principle.
Yeah.
Because we own this. If I don't do it, there'll be a problem.
Yeah.
Because even in my own mental state. So in your recovery, as you said, in your hibernation, you think, now as you come, you realize COVID comes. Hey, geez, COVID has come. Hey, there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity, technology we can use, we can build. And I told myself, I will build a business that even intellectual property can be globally in a country that can help me and protect me as I build intellectual property. Where is that? You look for a country. Before you realize the internet is there, you have lawyers globally, they help you set up. Before you realize you've built technology that can be reused at a global level. You see now, your hibernation and stress also made you realize, it's called, in our last episode 3, we talked about pre-mortem, not post.
Pre-mortem.
You first figure out, if you could end aje.
Yeah.
So your hibernation allows you to retrospect and think, how is it going? And I think that brings me to the question to your life in terms of how do you retrospect? What makes you get into a pre-mortem stage? Because post-mortem is easy. You kick the bucket down the road, you can post-mortem uko mbele, sio? But what gets you to get into a pre-mortem? What is it? Is it something you've created as a natural way to do that? Is it you wait for Christmas and say, now it's New Year, I need to go sit somewhere with a piece of pen? What makes you get into that mode? And I'm coming to you guys for the same question. What gets you into that thinking mode?
I normally feel, so I'm a very unsettled person. I'm always thinking what's next. I'm never satisfied. They say the weird thing about having dreams and visions is no sooner do you achieve your goals than you're on to the next one, trying to achieve the next one. So I'm that person who's always trying to see what the next big thing is, right? And sometimes I think that's a good thing, and it could also be a bad thing, because maybe if I stayed longer in one place, I could I could unpack some of these businesses a bit more, but then I'm busy sort of moving around, right? So I'm always trying to figure out what's next. And I think even as I'm in whatever business it is, so for example, as I'm working as an image consultant and I have all these other skills as an individual, I'm like, what else can I do with these skills that I have? Because when you're not training, you're really not doing much. You're not developing much content, right? You have your content, it's there. So when you're not training, you're knocking on doors, you're prospecting, you're pitching. But then after that, it gets exhausting. And there's a type of brain that requires multiple challenges. So I'm one of those people. If you're focused on one thing, you easily get bored. You almost even get lazy and sort of ambivalent, for lack of a better word. So that said, you talked about COVID, and that also reminded me about how we got into what we're launching next. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, even when COVID happened, the things we did during COVID, oh my goodness, people are coming to our office, to the Couture house. They thought we were mad. They're like, are you people not aware that there's COVID? I'm like, no, we have a bubble. This is our bubble. Yeah. We shot, did you guys hear about something called Nyambane's Kitchen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We shot Nyambane's Kitchen during COVID. We started doing some fintech startup during COVID. Like, my brain doesn't allow me to stop for whatever reason. In fact, I'm one of those people who you stop when you get sick. Like your body's like, Olive, now. I'm sorry, deuces. I'm taking a break for 5 days. You can continue doing whatever it is that you're doing. And so, as you said retrospect?
Yeah.
So you're moving as you're retrospecting for the next thing. So you have this thing working, but then you're also thinking, what else can we do at the same time? Because I believe that as individuals, we are so multi-talented and multifaceted that if you're to use your 18 hours of a day doing constructive things, I know that was before family came, right? So I had very many hours to dedicate to work only. If you're to use your 18 hours of a day doing constructive things, there's so much you can do. Even when you're out having drinks. My out having drinks is networking and hustling and seeing what gigs we can get, not having drinks for the sake of having drinks. So that's sort of the mindset and the brain I've always had, which I think is a fantastic thing. Yeah.
Interesting. So for you, I think you've engaged your mental state on a continuous basis. So for you, you're always on drive.
I'm always on drive. until baby came, then I had to stop.
Baby. So that you see.
That's when I had to stop by force. And I was so confused and shocked. I was like, wait, what? Because now the brain actually stops working, right?
So for you, the baby was an interesting conversation we're about to have around women and mothers and founders, and when you have families, and sometimes as you bring up families, that becomes your priority. And as a founder, a little bit, you're forced by circumstance to stay back. So for you, interesting, you said you're always on drive.
Always.
So constantly your mind is alert to opportunities, I guess.
Yes.
And those opportunities then give birth to the next set of opportunities. And Shichangi, for you, one of the things I'd like to also look at is when you think about guys, the Gen Zs, for instance, and I don't want to keep referring to them as Gen Z, but looking at the younger entrepreneurs and founders who one day are going to be listening to us and thinking, oh, wow, what are these guys talking about? What can we learn from them? There's when I was younger, what happened? I never could take no. Like I said, I have to keep ramming this thing like a bull until we break the door. And sometimes, you injure yourself.
Yes.
You do that.
Yes.
You don't know at what point to say, hey, this one, I think I have pushed it too far and I need to sort of just take a back step.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the season is not for me,
Yes.
right? How do you know when you're throwing good money into a bad cause? Yeah, when you realize, to be honest, here, I need to change course.
I think a major thing that you spoke to was reduced barriers to entry. You said starting a company, putting up a website, having a landing page, even speaking to customers is relatively affordable. So as entrepreneurs, I believe we follow our intuition quite a bit. So we have a gut feeling.
Yeah.
But before throwing a lot of money into something, can your intuition be backed by empirical data? And that then helps you scale the right ideas. Because sometimes, as I think Olive said, we have ideas come to us even in our sleep.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of sleeping and you actually have to wake up to take notes.
Write it down quickly.
Yeah. But is this an idea that actually adds value to the market, or does it add value to me in the sense of my portfolio of I think this will be a good thing to do? So that data then helps you discern or decide. So the reduced barriers to entry means it's quite cheap for you to test it, have empirical data, and then scale what actually works. And it's something which, in my personal journey, I think I suffered from. You think that having a team of 20 people, of 10 people is... You'd rather have a team of 3 people who are doing the work as opposed to a team of 20 people who are not. And that then becomes, I think you refer to it as keeping up with the Joneses. In the digital media space, there's a thing of instant gratification. I want to be known as a billionaire entrepreneur tomorrow. Tomorrow shouldn't end without me. And it's a thing of ego that you're saying. And it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of self-assessment. So am I doing this for the right reasons? And what is your purpose? What is your why? What is the reason I'm actually doing this thing? And if you do it from the right place within yourself, then you're able then to make better decisions. Of this one, the data is telling me, so that's not the right thing to do. So a good example would be in entertainment. I can book the most expensive artists in the world and have them here in the country tomorrow. But if it's not profitable because of the economic season we're in, people don't have disposable income to pay for the biggest artists in the world right now. So it's not the right time to do it. But because of my ego, no, I want to be seen next to this person. So I'll pay them a lot of money, go and raise. And because also investors typically are greedy. If I say I'm bringing this person to the country, they'll be like, I know that artist. Here's the money, in fact. However, now a good name is worth more than silver and gold. Am I putting good investment opportunities into the market as an economic entrepreneur? I think then this becomes all of the things that we then assess, or you're able to learn, or a muscle you're able to build. The more you exercise putting things into the market, putting things online. Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing way, the way you said in terms of, so you're fast to fail, or you failing fast.
Yes.
For you then is easier because you can quickly fail without significant investment upfront, which is great. And also pivoting, A/B testing also becomes easier. And I think this then comes to Teresa in terms of when you retrospect and you think the company Clean Start, okay? Clean Start, great name. When you look, so it means, and I've read a little bit about your business, I've before I came here, and I've spent time understanding and talking to you. When you think about Clean Start, and you think about retrospectively, what now, once you had the confidence and say you're going to grow this, are there moments you've had doubt? Because it's a big challenge you've taken on.
Yeah.
You're a social entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes in funding your business, the mechanisms of funding a business, social entrepreneurship is very different. From your business and my business, the way you look at the financial model.
Yeah.
So you can't one day, how do you keep yourself going, knowing very well, maybe the regime of the day is working for me, maybe it's not working for me. Maybe I need to keep this going. It's my brand. This ideation is big. This idea is big. It's me who built it. I cannot quit on it. It's almost like a baby.
Yeah.
You cannot like abandon the baby. It's your baby. Like, how do I abandon this situation? If I abandon the baby, I'm going.
Yeah.
How do you keep that energy?
Yeah.
And knowing you still have to take a time when you need to retrospect and say, it's noisy.
Yeah.
The team around me wants me to grow. I know this is the wrong time. I know I need to convince them, but I still have to keep the engine running.
Yeah.
How are you balancing that whole equation?
It's not easy. That's the true answer. And especially as a mother, so you've got 2 babies. You've got this social enterprise that you've set up, and then you've got your children who do not have another mother. So you cannot drop. These are 2 glass balls that you cannot afford to drop. And none has a manual, and very unique. Fundraising to keep the enterprise going, because the impact, the metrics that you're using to measure growth, or the metrics that you're using to show success, are very different from the normal way you do business, bottom line. The metrics are very, very different. And it's literally eating your very soul. You're paying the price with your life, to keep this vision going, because you believe in this vision. And there's no one else doing it who you could even sit down and compare. And, I remember one time someone asking me, in Kenya we have got a very horrible term for incarcerated persons or people who have been impacted by the justice system. And they were like, kwa hivyo sasa unatuuzia mahabusu. You know, and you're sitting there thinking, my gosh, what is it that I do? You know, you get into a room of funders and, you know, they're expecting to hear something sexy, something like, you know, climate change, climate justice, something like, come on, you know, yeah, you know, environmental, something, you know, or some innovation. But here you are bringing a very unsettling, people are just not comfortable with the service you offer, the dream you've got. But at the end of the day, I believe in what I believe in. You've got the money, and this exchange has to happen. Bottom line, at the depth of the depth of the depths, it's you. Bottom line, it's you. And that's who you're selling. You, your dream, and your vision. And then the few people who have bought into it, and I was listening to you, Mike, and I was hearing this conversation around, you've trained all these people, and then voila. How about you've trained all these people, and you've been fighting for a constituent that at some point tells you, and by the way, you're not fighting enough for us, or you're not serving us the best way we would have loved to be served. And you're thinking to yourself, there's nothing else that I have that I could give. So I think sometimes people see the glam and the success, but they do not know the cries and the pain and the price and the sacrifice that you have to put in to get there. It's consistency, number one. Every single day showing up, even though you don't feel like. I love seeing the transformation of a woman who was completely hopeless, had absolutely, they do not have a tomorrow. But because of Clean Start Africa's intervention, they've transformed and bloomed, and we've turned around not just a family, but an entire generation. I love to see that. I don't love sitting in long flights, going to look for funding abroad, and I'm away from my children. I don't love that. And I think when people say, look for something you love and you'll never have to work for a day. Let me tell you something. There are things you will love about what you do. There are things you will not love at all. I wish funding would be readily available in Kenya, and I didn't have to go fundraising in markets that don't even know why they're investing in a different market that's not even taking care of their own. So it's consistency. Even when you don't feel like it, it's building trust. We talked about trust. It's them trusting that even though you've been branded on one end as a thief, that's not who, it's building trust. Trust with the funders, trust with your constituents, trust with your government, you know, that you're not here to unleash whatever corruption it is that they're having. You're having to build trust on a day-to-day basis. But then also it's knowing that what I am building is not just about the numbers. It's not just about the transformation. Am I whole as I build this? Because, Mike, 10, 20 years down the line, I'll have grown older. My children will have grown older. Will I be happy with the sacrifice that I offered to build this thing? Or will I get down the line to regret that, yes, I'm happy with what I've built, but I am not happy because of what I've ended up losing? So it's those moments of hibernating and asking yourself, okay, I've come this far. Am I proud of what I'm building? And am I building it wholesomely? Am I whole in this? Because sometimes we get there, but end up losing some parts of ourselves. Or will I be comfortable with what I had to lose? You've got to keep asking yourself that question over and over and over again and doing that audit. Because, Mike, it's your life in the arena as much as it's the business.
You know, you've talked about, very interesting and very passionately, you talked about something you talked about, and it keeps popping up in my mind, value system. You know, when you leave your house every day and you know what you're doing is against your value system, and I need to feed my family. I need to give investors return, but it's against your value system. I think it starts eating into your mental health.
Yeah, it does.
And not us to move into mental health. And I think the challenge of, and I think it's going to be a topic by itself in mental health later, but I just want to touch mental health with the issue of blossom and the issue of when to hibernate. And I'll give you a story. For me, let me give you a story. So when I got this project with government, I had like 200, 300, whatever employees. So think about a whole building, many people. You've convinced them to leave their jobs. Some of them Europe, some of them working for hospitals. Because you need all this workforce.
Yeah.
Diverse work for doctors, technology people. And all of a sudden, you're calling for meetings. You're writing to the person in charge of the minister. We need to have these meetings. They're not ignoring. They're ignoring your letters. But how many people do you have there waiting? 200 plus. So now, so you're leaving the house every morning, okay? So you're driving. You have to drop the young man to school. So that journey is 1 hour. It's a very long journey. You're thinking, okay, I have to drop this guy in school, okay? From here, I'm going to go to the office, and there are going to be all these people waiting for me. And they're professionals.
Yeah.
They're on your pay. And to be honest, even them after 2-3 months, they're receiving money, but they're realizing this money is not even worth, because what am I doing?
Yeah.
We're not moving forward. But you're in a 747, you got a project to execute, you knew you had to fly from here to China, and now the 747 is taking off. In the middle of it taking off, you're thinking, do I drop these passengers? Do I drop who? What do I do with this 747? It's fully loaded with fuel. What do I do with this 747? You're not hit cruising altitude. What do you do with this 747? Jeez. Do I crash it? I can crash it. I'll die also. Do I drop some passengers? You cannot. They'll die also. And the day you put that 747, you say, you're meant to be going to China, and you start saying, let's land in Khartoum. Getting that plane off that runway will never happen. So you're thinking, what do I do? Do I just glide? Then I tell some people to drop off. And then you think, do I hibernate? Do I chill? You see, mental health can come in multiple ways. Yeah. You're thinking to yourself now, what am I supposed to do in this situation? You get my point? So how do you manage mental health? For me, I remember for a very long time, I used to go to the office, I look at guys, we have coffee, you go for a few meetings, you're given a little bit of bullshit by people. You listen, what are you saying again? You can do what? How? They want to cooler your money. You listen, no, I'm not partaking to this idea. I'm sorry. Then you realize you're just going round. And you're going to this power source, You realize this one has power, but doesn't really have power. This one has implied power on paper, but really cannot do anything. And you're chasing your tail. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, maybe I should just ditch this 747. I just tell people, ready? Let's ditch it. Let's move. Maybe hibernation means we crash this thing. Sometimes hibernation means destroy everything. When you say if we destroy, we may die. We don't know where this thing will end up, right? Because then what happens when you destroy it? Yeah. So I don't talk about mental health. How do you deal? At what point do you know that this is becoming too much? At what point do you know you're not strong enough to deal with the challenge ahead of you? At what point do you know here? Even sometimes, at what point do you know that the opportunity you're about to embark on, because Olive is more on the positive side of 2020. At what point, Olive, do you know that this opportunity, I need to take a chill pill a bit. I just need to chill and internalize if I can take on this opportunity. Because even big opportunities can be very dangerous.
Yep.
That may have learned the hard way. If you come and tell me, take an opportunity, I say, hold on. I look at this, I know let me take a back step and evaluate. Yeah. I'm not going to say yes. I'll say, hold on. How do you know for you mentally and for mental health purposes, how do you keep yourself sane? Because too much success can make you go crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
And the reverse can also happen, right?
That's true. So first, I think for you to be a successful entrepreneur, and not a business person, an entrepreneur, the person who creates value from nothing, right? That's the difference, I think, between an entrepreneur and a business person. For you to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be a little bit delusional.
True.
You have to look at the world through rose-colored glasses. You see things in ways that other people don't see it. If you tell people your thought, and so I don't talk a lot about what's going on in my head, because if I say it out loud, guys will look at me like I have lost my mind.
Yeah.
And then they'll start making me doubt myself. And I don't need that negativity. It's not negativity. It's not intentional negativity.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? Just leave me and my delulu by myself.
Yes.
I know where I'm going. It's fine. And then if it doesn't work, it will work. Cautious optimism, right, is what we call it. Cautious optimism in that don't put all your money behind it thinking it's going to work, because if it doesn't work, you don't want to lose all your money. But at the same time, a little bit of delusion is required. One of my things, when I don't know what to do, I don't do anything. So when you don't know what to do, do nothing. If you're faced with a challenge and you're not sure, do I go? Is this go time? Is it not go time? Do we wait? Who do we bring in? I'll sit on it for a little bit. I'll let it marinate. And I'll let the people who have been impatient be impatient. And I'll let the people who are willing to wait. I'll just sit on it. I'll sit on it till, you can also tell how long you can sit on something. That 747 of yours, you know that it can be over here in stasis for 2 days or for 2 weeks or for a year. So I'll push it to the brink. I'll be like, I'm going to leave this to see how far it can go. And somewhere in between, I find that things always fall into place. The people who are meant to be there come. The people who are not meant to be there go. Yeah. The universe just settles itself.
True.
Does that make sense?
Significant optimism.
Yeah.
I like it.
It is.
Yes.
Because when you do nothing, everyone panics.
Yes.
When you're doing nothing. And then you're doing nothing, but you're very chill. Like a duck. You're very chill. Over here on top, you're looking very put together, but underneath the water, you're paddling like a mad person, right? So you're very chill. But you're observing and looking at the different partners and players to see how they're reacting to the nothingness. And then that's when they start showing their cards in advance of. Because if you're busy reacting, as much as they say, I'm go, sometimes you just need to not react. You just need to not go. And then you see, okay, that person who's expecting me to chase them, they live and wonder, okay, she's not chasing. Okay. That other person that you know is trying to con you, they're like, has she shikad my plan? Has she not shikad? Like, what? How come there's nothing happening? So people start doing things by themselves because they're overthinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
It's a psychologically smart way.
So that's what I tend to do. When you don't know what to do, do nothing. But then there's only for a certain amount of time. But it's all situational. So, in this situation, it's an event. That event is happening in a week. This guy is about to cancel. And there's nothing you can do whether he cancels or not, right? So what do? Do you wait for him to cancel? Do you cancel it in advance of, there's very many choices that you have to weigh. Don't make that decision immediately. Give it 2 days. See, he's going to cancel in a week. So give it 2 days or 3 days. See how much time do you have to play with this idea before you have to make a hard call. So I push it to the extreme brink before I actually do have to make a call. And in terms of mental health, I think I don't know if it's the way I was brought up or just chance or fate. I tend to intentionally keep myself as grounded as possible, right? I tell people I'm an introvert and they don't believe me, but I'm a very big introvert. So I think because my work keeps me very social, so in my free time when I'm not working, I'd like to keep to myself, thinking, reading, personal development, exercising, just binging on Netflix, whatever it is to just ground my head and my thoughts, right? And also having your 2 or 3 people that you can go and tell them, who will not judge you, because it's important to be able to have people that you can talk to who will not judge you, and say, well, let me tell you, let me tell you what is happening, and I don't know what to do. So as I'm doing nothing, I'm just can I just sit here and rant and unpack? Because also as you're ranting to a non-partisan third party, you're thinking out loud. Cynthia? So you just sit there and you tell them, so these are the challenges, this is what's happening, this is the drama at the office, because there's always drama. My life is not at all go, but I like to think I have selective amnesia. I don't focus on the negative. Yes. I don't focus on the negative. I go with the things that are working, right? So during that time of doing nothing, find someone that you can unpack to, think out loud to, someone who will not judge you, someone who will give you a safe space, someone who will not give you solutions. Literally, if you can talk to your cat, but let that cat be a human being who will nod and respond the way you're nodding and responding to me, right? And then in that process, you're thinking out loud and you're able to find that in your sleep, you'll get some epiphany about what to do with that situation. You'll be like, I know how I'm going to get Mike to sign that contract. I know how I'm going to get so-and-so to retract whatever order they have sent to me. I know how I'm going to deal with that person over there, right? So sit on things, because we're always in a hurry. We're always reactive, right? Sit on things. That's the most important thing. And then I think also and this might happen to our young man here, when you're a visible entrepreneur, and when I say visible as a brand, people see you. For whatever reason, my brand became very visible very quickly. Maybe it's because of the media, and I was in the media, and I used media channels to promote my business because I didn't have marketing budgets, right? So I think when you achieve success very quickly, it also messes up with your mind. It's almost like those child stars. You know, everyone's like, where are they now?
Yeah.
And when you're young, you're very bold. You make bold decisions. And I'm learning. In fact, you said something when you started, how you made very bold decisions when you were younger. So as I'm growing older, I'm realizing I'm becoming more cautious, which I think is a bad thing. I hate it. But I can't help it. I'm not overthinking. I'm moving slower. I'm analyzing things more. And I'm like, okay, so it's a good thing because on the one part, there's wisdom that I'm supposed to be adding to the decisions that I'm making. But then I'm like, but before your Midas touch, whatever you touch turns to gold. You don't overthink things. Then it doesn't work. You drop it like a hot potato, move to the next. Like, moving really, really fast. So you start moving a little bit slower as you grow older. You start becoming more cautious. And when you get success, especially visible success very early, now that fear of failure becomes very real because you're like, where? What the day I anguka, and I've angukad once or twice, but I've telezad once or twice, and guys are like, we knew that would happen. So it's like people are waiting for you to fail. It's like, and Kenya, there's a thing about Kenyans. Yeah. They tend to celebrate failure more than they celebrate success, which is very unfortunate. So people are watching you, not watching to see how much higher can you go. They're watching you to see when is that time when she's going to fall. That time you've telezad, like, she hasn't angukad. Damn it. Okay, next time she'll angukad. So it plays with your psyche a little bit. And that becomes a moment of hibernation, I think, for you to just sort of internalize and realize that your success is for you alone, it's for you and your family alone. The things that you're trying to achieve are, yes, for the world, because of course the goods and services that you provide are to benefit the people around you. But then when it comes to the vanity or the ego of success, you need to find a way to release it because it comes to you very early.
Yeah.
And so you need to find a way to, how do I put this? You need to find a way to detach yourself from the ego of success.
Yes. Exactly.
Which becomes very difficult if it happened to you by chance when you were very young. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's amazing because you've touched on, it's interesting. When I wrote the theme of this Founders Battlefield, we are going to cover 30 topics. I think now we're on our fourth one. You've touched on 5 that we still have to cover.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Theme.
Okay.
One of them, you talked about...
He wants to add something.
Yeah?
I think it's a brand new one.
Yes, I was adding, I think, a reversal because I think I've suffered from actually the opposite, from not making a decision. You see, in my situation, I could have generally, as you're saying, even beaten people to the punch in terms of...
Cancel it quickly.
In terms of cancellation, because I fulfill my end of the bargain. Paying, I've paid. Setting up, I've set up. So mine is whenever, to a certain extent, and especially as a decision maker, you begin to be, or your value becomes your intellectual property. What do you know? The data you have or the information that you have. So I think any time in which then I'm challenged with difficult situations, it becomes, how do I get more data on this? Or do I have the correct information within me? So I think from reference materials, the books I read, the stories I hear, I think yours was, you spend a lot of time in books. So do I have the right data to make this decision? Because I think from where I am, and you said as a public entrepreneur, what should people know? What shouldn't people know? And even better yet, how do some of these things come into being, or how does this affect me? Assuming I'm partaking in 10 different enterprises at once in a different capacity. In one, I'm an investor. In one, I'm an entrepreneur. In one, I'm an individual contributor. There are various frames of mind that I constantly have to assume on a day-to-day basis. And there's a lot of information or actionable insights that come from this. And I usually say the best way to get what you want is by overtly stating what you want. So if this outcome then is my responsibility, or I've put it on my back, I might not have the luxury in which to take the back seat and say, person X or stakeholder X, act in whatever way you will for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Sometimes not taking action is important, but especially having, let's say, the office of 100 or 200 people to report to, that's not a luxury you might have. For 2 weeks I've not been able to make a decision, because also a burn rate. especially if you don't have venture capital somewhere.
Yeah.
That's cash.
It's expensive.
There are 30 people sat in the office or 40 people that I need to pay in this time that have decided to not make a decision. So then how do I become the right entrepreneur? How do I have the right information as an entrepreneur to avoid such a circumstance? Because as well, in similar to aviation, the Boeing 747 can stall and you drop like a stone. So what is it that you do, or how do you become a better decision maker? And it's upskilling, really.
Yeah.
There's something you said as we moved to Teresa. You talked about, and I'm going to tell you one of the, I'm going to connect the dots on something. You said about the 747 stalling. But you see, it's interesting. The passengers don't care, don't even think it can stall.
Don't even
They're
want.
not even aware that it's a
care. Nobody's
possibility.
caring
Yeah.
that.
How yours?
No. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
You keep it going.
You keep it going.
And
Yeah.
keep it going at a rate we love.
And in case you don't keep it going, we will sue you. So now you have the same employees. Some of them are great. You've been there. So some of them say, Mike, boss, even come out, you don't pay us. 1 month they agree. No, 1 month they say, boss, now I tell them, guys, there's no way I'm paying 20, 30 million salaries. Not even the effort to fire you, for the labor laws here are so complex.
Yeah.
You talk to legal gives you another process. You say, hey. Then there's an emotional toil towards like, how do I tell them this is stop? We need to pull the plug.
Yeah.
So you have two problems. Can I afford to pull the plug? Number two, how does the legal structure work for me or against me?
Yeah.
So what you do, and interesting as you tap to, I want us to, Teresa, I want you to speak into that conversation we just talked about. Because I want to ask you guys a question that's going to be very very complex. The role of spirituality and God as you make this decision.
That's a good question, because I normally ask myself, the spiritual being God who created this entire universe, first and foremost says to us, in the beginning was God. Before he even created everything else, day, night, but first we hear it was him. And then I said to myself, you want to first go creating before you even become self-aware, build on you. Like God himself, first, it was him first, the one who created the entire universe. But you want to go creating day, night, whatever else it is, but you're not investing in you. I mean, the biggest investment you will ever make in this world is you, because it's out of you that everything else flows. Having said that, I strongly believe that, what he intended for me to achieve in this world, it doesn't matter what obstacles or, and whatever, those failures or whatever it is that we look at from a negative perspective, yet it is communication to you, coming back to you. That's not the way to continue or rethink the route that you could now. It's just communication. Fail fast, fail forward as you learn, as you keep going. But we look at it so negatively. And just posing on that point a little bit to what O has just talked about, where Kenyans are always looking at, when will she fail? When will it not work? And then celebrating that, look at him. He was really thinking that he was going somewhere. Look at him, he's just failed, And I don't think it's just Kenyans. I think it's something around the world, And that's why people fear, what will people say if I fail? What will people say if it doesn't succeed? The people who care, do not, they're not concerned whether it fails or whatever. But the people who don't care and who you should not be caring about, those are the ones who will be being happy that you have failed. So don't give whatever to people who don't, you just keep doing and building what is yours. And the reason why it's like that in Kenya is because, or even across the world, is because we think that top position just belongs to one person. And so how quickly can you come down so that I can take that position? No, I can shine here, you're shining there, you're shining there. So many spots for us to shine in. And but back to the question around God. When God created me and brought me into this world, There was a destiny. There was a plan for me to come into this world and fulfill. So at one moment, I thought, let me be in the banking world. He allowed me to be there for about a decade. I learned what I needed to learn. And then now I'm into social entrepreneurship. And whatever else has been predestined for me to achieve. Even if I'm bankrupt for a year or 2 years or whatever, I will still get there. Why? Things work out for us, not against us.
Yes.
Everything that happens in this world is happening for me. And when it's a failure or I have been incarcerated unfairly, it's still working out for me. There are things I'm learning from it. And that's why today, it's that incarceration, negative as it looked like then, it's working out for me now. So God has the master plan at the end of the day, and it will keep unraveling. All I need to do is obey and continue being bold and courageous. The problem is we're fearing that, oh, my bank account reads 1 million bob, so I'm not going to continue with this idea that I have for 10 million shillings. God is not giving you the dream based on what is in your bank balance. Go for the $1 billion idea. The world, the universe, God himself, it's going to align. It's going to work out.
I love it.
I think I'm from a similar school of thought. I think especially because, let me speak from a personal perspective. I believe some callings are divine or are ordained. So the same way you said the universe will adjust is the same way you find yourself even now cutting deals with God. You say, you gave me this dream. Okay, fine. This vision came to me.
Yeah.
So for you to take me there, this is what I need, XYZ. And if you give me this thing, then I'll be committed to this extent. And it becomes a thing in which you find the universe actually does adjust. Whatever decision you make, whichever rubric you use, whether you use the rubric of not making a decision, use the rubric of making the fastest decision possible, somehow life goes on. You know, some of these things look like the end of the world. They're really not. The longest day, at the end of the longest day, the sun still must set. And that gives you some comfort that whatever brought this calling to me will deliver it in the way that it should be. And if it's not delivered, then it's not for me, and probably it's to build up to something else, as she said. So I think that would be my view. Yeah.
I think as Olive, I'd like your take on the spiritual side of things. Just coming to it, how do you think, for you, how has the spirituality and role of God played in your deck of cards?
I think spirituality has been important for me to keep me grounded, right? And when I say spirituality, I've gone up and down this from Christianity to New Age spirituality to everything in between, right? Really looking for groundedness. So I've spent a lot of time searching and trying to find the true purpose of life and the true purpose of why we're here. And I've gone down many rabbit holes. But when it comes to business, I believe in the power of flow. I'm like, if you're trying to do something and it's not working, that is God, that's the universe telling you that you're not meant to be doing it. But then Sisi Wajinga, we are over there pushing, insisting that this thing must happen, right? So I believe in the power of flow. Flow and instinct. Those are the two biggest ways that I think the universe and that God communicates to you. If something, and every time I've gone against my gut instinct, something has gone wrong down the road, and you're like, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have done this thing. And sometimes your gut instinct is so strong, you can feel it in your blood. You know how you just feel,
yes,
I should not be doing this thing, but it's such a big deal that day I can't say no. Let me just go for it. It's not even about values. There's just something in it that your soul tells you no, but you're just pushing, right?
Yeah.
So follow your instincts and flow. When you'll always find when something is meant to work out for you, it always just works out automatically. So for example, Couture Africa, when we started in 2013, one of the things that we were meant to have done was have an online platform, as well as a print magazine and then events, right? And so I'm telling you, we tried to build this website for like 3-4 years. I think we spent, and we kept throwing money to it, but something was not working. Either Stu developer has disappeared, or there was always something going wrong, right? So by the time COVID was coming, then at some point I left it. You know, when things are not working, you just leave them. Yeah. So I left it. Then when COVID came around, I was like, oh, that website that was supposed to have built, I think it's kind of important now. So let's do this thing. We built it in a week, and it is like the most amazing website. I'm like, how has this thing taken a week? We struggled for this thing for 2 years, but that was not its time. This time around COVID was its time. It was the most relevant platform. We were still able to make money from it. So flow. When you're trying to do something, if you're not finding some sort of cohesion, leave it alone. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's not for you. You can circle back to it a bit later if you like, but just leave it for a while. Yeah.
Or maybe it's not the right strategy.
Or maybe it's not the right
reminds
strategy.
me of a strategy that I had built on for about 3 to 4 years. And I was building this strategy for scale and growth. And I had my maths done right. How we're going to hit Africa. What are you talking about? This will be the next big thing. I get to the point, 3rd, 4th year, it's time to now execute. The strategy falls. Let me tell you something. I remember I was in South Africa and I called for an urgent board meeting because for about 3 to 4 months, I had fought with myself. How can this strategy not work? How on this? And I didn't have plan B. This was this strategy. And it was going to, I had done my calculations, presented to the board. Like you're sure you know this is it. And then just when you're about to execute it, boom, it's not going to work. How now? So I remember calling, for an urgent board meeting in the middle of a summit that I was attending in South Africa. And I said to the board, the reason I've called for this urgent meeting and the importance of having those 2-3 people who you can tell the truth. Because it's in moments of vulnerability that you get solutions, not bringing glossy papers to say, this is the reality. We have zero plan. Or everything we've been building and investing, zero. And to my surprise, I shared, very understanding, and immediately got solutions of what the next strategy would be. But what shocked me was that this plan that I had been planning for about 3 to 4 years and my calculations of what the impact would be like across Africa. Do you know when it failed and we immediately came up with this next one, what we had achieved in those 3 to 4 years, we achieved in 1 quarter.
Oh, there you go. A better plan came up.
A better plan came up,
about.
Something, yeah. And it was much cheaper. Like you unataka kubeba hii msalaba, And sometimes it's because of ego. It's because of ego. How you want it to be. Let me tell you, that 3 to 4 year plan would have stood up and say, "Oh my, look at what we have! Oh my God!" Part of it's ego driving you, which is so expensive. And I always say, a good day for my soul is a bad day for the ego.
I like that.
Wow, it's amazing because, and touching, the way I relate to what you're saying is, when you go through, I just turned 50, sorry. Between what I imagined at 40 in my life.
What
I imagined at 40 my life would be. If I was told do an extrapolation. Chora kwa graph. Kutoka hapo utaenda wapi?
Oh my goodness.
I think it's a different story. If I was told do this movie, and I'll do the movie I'm living now. Those are two different conversations.
Movies,
and I say now, but what is the unifying conversation? And I think for me, the way I look at spirituality is, when it's about to rain, and you go out, you can smell there's something, it's going to rain. I think when you know that you're aligned with God in your decision making, it's like it's going to rain.
Yeah.
And you feel everything is aligned somehow. Is that correct? Yes. The person you're not meant to have met at the country club, you meet. Yeah. The person you're meant not to meet at the bus stop, you meet. When you're fearing to talk about your stories, you tell somebody and they say, I can open for you this door. All of a sudden, you start realizing, geez.
Everything starts working, and it starts working very quickly. And all at the same time.
Exactly. And you're wondering, what was I waiting for? Then I think for me, my way of this, in terms of being quiet also, I think it's also asking God, what plans do you have for me?
Yeah.
Like, what plans do you have for me? Honestly, I'm a smart guy.
Yeah.
I have got this knowledge.
Yeah.
I've gone through this wahala. I can mobilize. But what do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of put me here just to be happy that I can feed my family,
Yeah.
have a small, nice house, have a nice car.
Yeah.
I said, no, surely my life cannot be this. These you
Your dreams are bigger than that.
You can't have put me through all this chaos.
It's got to
just
be
for the small
something.
things. Hey, someone. Come on, stop
You could have
joking.
been a CEO somewhere and achieved the same
CEO,
thing.
I don't need all this money. I would have been a CEO, earning good money. Wait, it's not my business. Somebody did it. And I'd have done a great job for them. Then I think, God, what plan did you have for me? And even part of setting up Foundersbattlefield,
Yeah.
I got motivated by this idea. I said, honestly, Mike, you can't go through all this and you don't tell people. And you don't share with other people. Like,
Yeah.
honestly.
That's
Yeah.
Stop jokes. Just stop joke.
Yeah.
And I said, then I started realizing, as you talk to other people, even them, they have stories to say.
Yeah.
But everybody's just keeping quiet in their own corner.
Yes.
Because even when you're in that hibernation mode, there's also a risk for you to isolate yourself.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes isolation is important.
Yeah, but you kind of isolate yourself whereby you isolate yourself because you don't have an alternative framework of even friends, a network effect. People are giving you an alternative view of life. I could tell you, isolate yourself, go to Cape Town. Sit in Cape Town in the middle of whatever. Or go to Teresa's business. Spend there 2 weeks. In that very different social enterprise,
Different environment.
you may just find the calling that you're looking for. So sometimes I think what you talked about network effect is very, very important because sometimes you need to change the network you're with to be able to go forward.
Or just your environment.
Your environment. And that's also the question I'd like to ask you guys. What is the role of family when you want to hibernate? When you want to blossom? What is the role of family?
So
if your spouse is telling you, no, hakuna kitu kama hiyo, we're not you maybe just want quiet. But the family is loud, they want out. How do you reconcile? How many spouses are going to give you a chance to find yourself? Because sometimes it's a lonely place, right?
Yeah.
And maybe your spouse is not even aligned with you. You want quiet, them they want loud. Louder.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
You want stillness, they want
I said, my
movement.
God, I just want quiet, please, guys.
Yeah.
Said louder. How do you reconcile this? How have you reconciled this? Even for your kids, how do you tell your kids, I think it's time we don't have to be all over the place. I think it's time, this time round, we don't need a big holiday. We just need to just relax, just chill. Just find ourselves as a family. How do you manage that? How do you bring people very close to you to accept that you're not going through that amazing moment? And sometimes, as entrepreneurs, you don't really want to tell them everything that you're going through.
Yeah.
Me, I was actually going to say that. I'm like, they don't need to know everything that you're going through. So as she's thinking, because she looks like she's pulling her question from deep. So for me, I think my moment of isolation or my moment of hibernation was forced, right? Because so I have an 11-month-old. So
Congratulations.
during that period, for maybe 18 months, I'll say 18 months, there was just a moment where nothing was happening. And again, even work, I was trying to do things and they were not working. Everything was katika. And you're calling this person, they're like, okay, fantastic, all of that thing. So we push it to UN. I'm like, okay, what's happening? And then a little voice in my head just told me, maybe it's just time to use this time to just slow down. Because you've never slowed down. You've never stopped. Since you discovered how to make money when you were 17 years old, you never stopped until 30-something, right? So maybe this is your time to just stop. And so for about 18 months, I didn't stop. I tried to do a few things. They were not working, right? Yeah. And I remember, I'm a trainer. So, of course, when you're not training, it means you're not earning money, which is a bit frustrating. But we're also in a moment of transition with the Couture Africa brand and the business that we are doing. And so the thing that we were trying to do was also not working. And I'm over there. I'm saying these things that when it doesn't work, you leave it alone. But, sometimes you don't listen to yourself. You don't listen to your own advice. You realize when you're already in it that, this is the flow that's not happening that I should let go. So I decided to just stop. I was like, okay, I'll do bare minimum. I'll do my trainings. The trainings that are already there in the pipeline. I'll do those things. People will call me for consultations. I'll go, whatever will come, will come. But let me just sort of sit in my space and be a mother, for lack of a better word, or go through this transition in peace.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's very important to have an understanding partner who can be able to first just deal with that, because that's not the Olive that he met. He met the Olive that was running around. Everyone's like, now suddenly you're in the house all day. Okay, that's interesting. I'm like, no, sending emails. I'm going out for a consultation for 3 hours and I'll come back. So very different speed. But it's also in that silence and in that moment of, I won't say isolation, because you're getting guests and you're hanging out with your people. What was the word? There's a word that you used. In that moment of silence that you also get your next epiphanies and your next aha moments, right? And so now we're setting up a marketplace for Couture Africa. And it came to me maybe a few months ago, and I was like, why have we never done a marketplace, like an e-commerce marketplace for fashion, beauty, art, etc.? So I'm like, all these years, why have we never done a marketplace? And then the more you unpack it, the more it makes sense. I'm like, how have we never done this thing? And then somebody looked at me and said, well, Olive, maybe maybe you just needed to stop, because you never stop. Maybe you just needed to stop so that you can have time to look at everything that you've done and find the best way to leverage your next big thing on it, right? So it was forced, and it is what it is. But I love that it happened. And now, with that knowledge and with all the fantastic things that have come out of it, I think I will be more intentional. As you grow older, you get wiser. So I think I'll be more intentional to, every so often, just stop for 2 weeks. Like, it's okay to do nothing. If I'm that person who goes on vacation with their laptop, I don't joke. Just because, like, you never know. And I used to fight with my sister. She's like, you're not carrying your laptop. I'm like, I'm carrying my laptop. Like, something is going to happen. There'll be a fire somewhere in the office and I'll need to turn it off. So I'm just carrying. If I don't turn it on, well and good. But the fact that you've carried it means that your mind is not really going to stop, even if you don't turn it on, right? So for me, I think now moving forward, it's about being more intentional, about taking time to really just stop. If it's for a week, for 2 weeks, whatever life can accommodate, and just focus on doing nothing. Focus on nothingness for a little bit and communicating to the people around you. Say, no, for the next 2 weeks, I'm doing nothing. Nobody disturb me. We'll chill. If you want to come and chill with me, come and chill with me. But otherwise, anything hectic, don't bring it my way. You get what I mean? Yeah.
Interesting. And you guys, Changi and Teresa, from our point of view, answering the same question that Oliver's just explained, from a family point of view, I saw you thinking very hard. How do you, I think Oliver said, having a baby has sort of just got her into that mix. For you guys, what is it?
I think on my part,
you're young, you don't have
no, mine is not even in relation to maybe family.
Sure, no problem.
But there are still, let me say, various relationships you're in. You have friends, you have girlfriends, you have whatever it may be, whatever the case may be. But realizing that you have, or what you're going through is a very niche experience, or being an entrepreneur is a very niche experience. And not very many people will understand what you're going through. And also, it's not their responsibility to understand. These are personal choice you have, or you've undertaken. And it's for you to deal with the things that come with it or from it. And now not burdening your choice onto other individuals. So I'm now going to put this onto my friends of, there's this big issue I'm dealing with in the office. So now when we go to the club, no one can have fun. Or when I'm with my girlfriend and she just wants to have a good time, she can't have a good time because now in the Boeing 747 has stalled. What does this have to do with me? Or it wasn't my choice. Me, I have my job, which I'm working where I am. Why is it then my responsibility to carry your cross? So I think that's the perspective of whatever I signed up for, I need to be able to deal with. And it's a big undertaking, to be fair. And people should take it as seriously as it is.
Children. I have to. And, we are at that point of, it's now preteen, teen, where they need a lot more attention. I think bottom line is that you cannot be an individual success. And the reason why I say that is because, especially as a woman, because trust you me, it's two different lenses, a man's lens and a woman's lens. Because a woman as a caregiver, there's that which even your own instincts, you've got to be there caregiving your children a lot more. And on this other hand, there's this vision and this other baby that you have launched that also needs you 24/7. Because truth be told, as a founder, it's not like you go home and then you now switch your mind to, now it's just home stuff. To be honest, you'll be cutting those tomatoes and an idea comes and you've got to write something down or, call someone. You live with your vision, I think what happens is your ecosystem, that is your family, has to truly understand, and I speak from a woman's perspective, and a woman who's a mother's perspective. You need a lot more support from your family to be able to hack motherhood and at the same time hack the entrepreneurial world. Because it's coming with a lot of travel, it's coming with a lot of meetings. But you see, that's not happening, and your children are waiting for you to first do that. You're doing these things concurrently. And so I think to the very beginning of this conversation around times and seasons, when my children were a little bit younger, they demanded a lot more from me. Then it got to a point where school, they can now go to school, which means that I have a lot more time to give my organization and build it a lot more. But now that they're teens, it's demanding a lot from me in the sense that I have to, they've got their peers, they've got all these groups. Before I came here, I had to make sure I've dropped my son, then I have organized how he will be picked from these classes that he has to attend to. And let's also not forget this battle that's going on around empowering the girl child and then the boy child. What are the empowerment? There's all this that's going on that you have to make sure that now I'm empowering them at the same.
You're not neglecting the boy child.
Exactly. Yeah. Velocity.
So as a mother, you need to be very intentional with building your support ecosystem. And you need to redefine what's family for me and for my children. You've got to redefine that very intentionally, and therefore think, to what extent am I including their grandparents? To what extent am I including their aunties? Because truth be told, there are weeks I will not be there. I am out of the country, I am fundraising, I am not there. Who plays the role that I would have played at that particular time? And there's also what we call mother guilt. You're sitting in New York and thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm not there for my daughter. She's asking this question. So you've got this guilt with you. And as I said, in the arena, it's not just what you're building. Your life is in there. And that's why you've got to redefine your metrics. What do I define success as? So when I look at family, it's that entire whole productivity and redefining metrics and redefining who family is, because sometimes you could narrow it to your own detriment. So whose family? Whose family, and how are we going to do this thing at the end of the day?
Fantastic. I always find it fascinating that when we start these conversations, even Olive asked me, Mike, 2 hours? I said, trust me, you can even go 4. When you're genuine about what you're talking about, when you start talking about raw truths, you can be here for a long time. And now, since we definitely have to come to conclusion, we have passed our 2-hour mark, and we try and push it to a maximum 2.5 hours, but it doesn't matter. We have to close this, having all of you feeling content about what you've discussed. And we don't cut. We don't cut any of the episodes. We publish what you guys said. And I think today, now as we come towards the closing, it's really having some level of self-reflection and asking yourself, this conversation we've had is not a conversation I'm sure you've had another time. It's not your typical conversation that you have on a tabletop, right? And you probably sometimes see Bill Gates saying he's going to go and take some sabbatical somewhere in an island. Wealthy guys say, I'm just going to go to a place in a cabin. Okay, I'm going to stop, leave my private jet somewhere. I'm going to take a boat. You know, that's what a lot of these guys do. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have those amenities. We take private jets and sitting in a small hut somewhere with no internet and whatever island, right? And one of the guys who's a true reflection of hibernating and coming out strong is Trump.
True.
Look at Trump.
Whoa.
Trump is a classic example of what we're talking about. Knowing when to take a back
Yeah.
and knowing when to say, I'm going to fight now. Okay? Even our current president, if you think about, he's a classic example of that kind of resilience. When to know, when to push back, and when to say, I have to hit the ground and do. Because I guess he got elected against all odds, if you think about it, when nobody even expected it. So when you now move forward in terms of conclusion, I think I can start and help you guys sort of read the cue on how to conclude. For me, it's not something I even thought about. I just realized that how do we hibernate? I think when I was younger, I used to hibernate every year. It was driven by national holidays. Easter,
Christmas.
okay. Christmas, to relax. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Then you feel guilty because you've indulged. So the first 3 days after holiday, you're saying, my God, I'm even more tired than I don't even know if I'm going, I'm coming. Is that correct? Crazy. You think I'm more even worried.
Yeah.
You have more anxiety.
Yeah.
Is that correct? You realize you're lying to yourself. Christmas, I'll make a decision. What decision? So you lie to yourself. Okay? Is that correct? So you grow out of that youth. And even many people still do it, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe in your youth, as somebody said earlier, you grow older. It doesn't mean when you're 70. 70, you could still be very young. And somebody at 20 could be much older based on your wisdom, right? So now, wisdom of years, you say, okay, I'll be doing it quarterly. But then quarterly, you're driven by family holidays. Kids come.
Yeah.
It's holiday time, quarterly, 20 holidays. That's a Misaligned group. So you realize you're not doing it yearly, like Sichang is doing. Then you have kids. He doesn't even know when holidays are. He doesn't know, I can assure you. He doesn't know there's holiday, but they've just gone back to school. Then you're thinking, I'm going to take when my sons are in school. And then, they're on holiday. That's quarterly, right? So you're doing it for external, right? Then you go to monthly. Monthly, now you're a founder. You say, hey, when there's no payroll week,
Huh.
the week after payroll, if I've paid payroll, if I make payroll,
Oh my
that's the next week
The second week of the
the
month.
second week of
That's
the
the
month. Let me
second
tell
week
you,
of the
it's
month.
an amazing month for me.
Second week
That's
of the month.
Second week is the time I feel.
Yeah. You can
Second,
be-
third week, I always feel happy.
Yeah.
Last week of the month, like this month, now already I'm thinking, I have to chase this person. This one is looking for me. They want this. They want to be paid. They want this. Second week, people forgive you. They say, "Wacha tungoje third week." So that's then what happens eventually. True, I would say true release or true freedom. Then you can do this daily. Okay? Because what happens when you go to week, from month is payroll, then you go week. So week, start looking for weekend. So your day is weekend. Week, no weekend. We have moved from yearly to weekends. No weekend, we say, my God, Friday is coming. Monday, anxiety day. Is that correct? Now, I think when you need to control this narrative is when you're able to do this on a daily basis. And for me, I think is learning less is more and more is less. No, less is more and more is less.
Yes.
When you look at your calendar like this, you say, hey, I'm only going to put in this calendar what really matters.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go for this party.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have this formal. I'm not going to go to this event. I'm not going to meet this person. They really waste my time. Your energy giver can also be your destroyer.
Yeah.
They give you energy, but they are nuisance. Is that correct? I'm not going to go to this event because I'm being told to go. What am I doing? They won't even know I never showed up anyways.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Then finally you realize it has to be about my day.
Yeah.
Now you start realizing, oh my God, I need to join the 5 a.m. club. So I need to wake up. I need to meditate a bit. I need to go jogging. I need to get to the gym a bit. No? All of a sudden you realize you're taking control of
Your time.
and now it becomes your hibernation is almost like on a daily basis. It's like a daily graph. You've got a 20 minutes there, you hibernated, you made a decision, you found yourself not too noisy. I used to walk a lot, like every day I do like 4-5 Ks. From around 6:30, I dropped my son in school. It was for me one of the best time. The feeling of the cleanliness, clarity of how you're thinking.
Yeah.
no noise, no internet, no. And I found, my God, it helped me so much in moments of challenge. Now I start realizing I can't get up with a hangover.
Yeah.
It's too expensive.
Oh, because you have to work.
It's too but it's also too expensive.
Yeah.
To wake up the hangover, it's too expensive mentally for you, right? And now finally you own the destiny.
Yeah.
So I've just been trying to reflect, can you really get to a point where you hibernate on a daily basis? Because think we are like animals. At the end of the day, we go and sleep.
Yeah.
So at night, don't you hibernate?
Yeah.
So if you don't sleep for 4 days, don't you become crazy?
Yeah.
So now think, since you're sleeping anyways, now how as a founder do you also hibernate daily in your decision making?
Yeah.
So how do you do it? How do you create that mental agility to say, I don't have to decide that now? Or I'm going to make this decision now. Or I'm going to make, how do you make that decision? So learning that daily rigorousness too, so that you're no longer part of the, as you said, conversation of everybody else. So you remove yourself from the noise, right?
Yeah.
So that, I think, for me, as you guys spoke, I just realized is the most powerful thing that I can tell myself. To have that discipline, to have that daily conversation with myself.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yes.
So I think, first of all, I can't overthink in the morning. I have anxiety. I have entrepreneurial anxiety. I want to start my day busy, because if I start thinking in the morning, I will just. So one of the things that I've done personally is I have quiet Mondays. My Mondays are my slowest days because I used to dread Mondays like everybody else, right?
Yeah, anxiety.
So
terrible days.
So I just decided to switch off Monday. Monday is like my free day. Our team meetings are on Friday. Fridays are on Fridays. Friday afternoon, because Friday afternoon no one is working anyway, right? So Friday afternoon, the guys know what they're doing on the weekend. They start their Monday running. And also, I guess because of the nature of our work, we tended to have you either on a shoot or at an event. There's something happening on the weekend. So Monday meetings are always being moved or pushed because, we were at, I don't know what market all of Sunday, so who's not coming in. So I just moved it to Friday. And so my Monday morning, I go for yoga at 10. Like I'm over there with the housewives at 10 a.m. doing yoga. That's how I decided to tackle my Monday.
Good.
Because I was like, this thing of Monday morning anxiety, I was like, I'm not dealing with it. It'll kill me. It'll make me die young. And then I start doing my work at about midday, plan my week, now do like my me work, like Olive's work. Because Monday you're not talking to anyone externally, right? So everyone that you says, call me on Tuesday. You rarely have external meetings on Mondays. So then now in the afternoon, I do my me work. Then now Tuesday, you do the week. Then I meet with your team on Friday. So that's the one thing that I've been able to implement. That helped me for the last 10, 15 years. Because I used to wake up with crippling. Why you go to sleep? No, that feeling of like when you're in school, that back to school feeling. Right. You go to sleep on Sunday having that feeling of the things I have to deal with on Monday morning. But I think something else, just as I was listening to you, I was thinking about it, is adding, and I do this. I didn't realize it wasn't necessarily intentional, but when I need to think through something, I like to walk and I like to cycle, to spin. So I either spin. I have a bike in the house because of COVID, which now has made it easy because now I can spin anytime. So I either spin or go to Karura for a walk if it's not raining. And just spin is 45 minutes, a walk in Karura is an hour. So just do something something physical. That I feel like it clears your mind. And when you're doing that physical thing, you just let your mind wander. Whether you're thinking intentionally about the thing, your mind always, you think about we have 50,000 thoughts a day, right? So wherever, let your mind go wherever it is that you're going, but you set your intention at the beginning and to figure X, Y, Z out in the next hour. But you're not necessarily actively thinking about it. You immerse yourself into that physical activity. And then by the time you come out of it, you feel a bit fresher, a bit more energized, take a shower, then now go and tackle the thing that you need to tackle. Yeah, that's what's worked.
Wow, and that, I think that also gives you, also that starts creeping into happiness.
Yeah.
So realizing that also becomes your happiness gene.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you just realize that anxiety makes you, and I hate that anxiety because it also gives you some level of, almost you ask yourself what's going on. But you see what you've done, you're creating what you call your happiness conversation. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Amazing, yes.
I think I'd say on my part, it's a realization that what got you here won't get you there. I think in the early days of your enterprise, you actually just have to do the 18-hour days. And even
Not
some
the early
20
days forever, for a very long time.
No, at some time it has to be even a 20-hour days. But as you're saying, on Monday you actually don't do hours. So the 24/7 not knowing what holiday it is, like for me, you even become a fixture in your office. You're like a lamp. People expect to come to your office, they'll find you there. That guy doesn't do anything else. But what got you from let's say the first level is not what will get you to the second level. And taking ownership of that and realizing that, as you're saying, in some situations less is more. So not every idea you also have, you have to execute. You can give ideas to others and actually even invest in them and earn money in your sleep, as you're saying. So that maturity that comes with time and age as an entrepreneur, because I might be 23, but I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years. My first business started when I was quite young. And some of these things you just have to accept and own where you are. And then you'll be able to understand when it's time for hibernation and when it's time for blooming. And flow is also important. So not to force anything and not to force a season. If it's not your time to bloom, then it's your time to work. Or if it's not your time for hibernation, it's a separate season in your life. So I think just also coming to in alignment with reality or accepting reality. Yeah.
And I think something you said as we close with Teresa, and I think building on to what Olive said, flow.
Yeah.
But also your life could not be flowing as fluid, but you also could be the gatekeeper, not allowing others to flow.
Yeah.
So knowing and having the maturity, that's why I think you need God in your life.
Yeah.
Because mine is not flowing, I'm going to block everybody else from
flowing.
So there's sort of what we call collective distraction.
Yeah.
You understand?
Everyone
The
is
747
stagnated.
has to crash.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what I'm saying. I would have decided, let's crash the 747 at the expense of everybody else.
Yeah.
Because it's not working for me.
Yes.
Everybody else should go to hell with me. But you see, what happens, you realize, okay, fine. Even though mine is not flowing, I need to allow others to
Flow.
And maybe God is pushing you to allow others to flow, to open up your
flow.
Your flow.
Detaching from the ego. There's something that she said
Yeah.
around your ego, your soul and your ego. There's a quote that you said.
They
that was
always
very nice.
compete.
Yeah.
A good day for
The soul, a good day
your
for the ego.
soul is a bad day for your ego.
Yeah.
And as we bring this to a wrap, and on that point about a good day for your soul being a bad day for your ego, to the point of just because mine isn't flowing, so everyone else's will
Shouldn't
not flow. It's not about you. This thing is bigger than you.
Sure.
You're just a vessel that's being used to bring about magnificent solutions or pathways. And the problem comes in just because you are the founder or the trailblazer. You now insert yourself at the center of everything and things have to revolve around you. No way. Get out of the way. And you also pointed to it when you said, when you become successful early, it kind of blinds you, and now you think that you're bigger than the entire equation. I think you've also said it, Michael, that there's a way that God also has his own way of showing you that, you know what, you're not the Alpha and the Omega. And as an entrepreneur, and especially as a founder, it's the humility of knowing that you don't hold all the solutions. So while I might by now know my rhythm of how I find my answers and solutions, because at the end of the day, the quality of the kind of decisions that I make is what determine how far this enterprise is going or how I'm leading. So I've got to make very incredible, amazing decisions. Now, without the stillness, it's very difficult for me to come up with those quality decisions. Yes, sometimes in the midst of the chaos, I'm getting the solution. But it's probably when I'm preparing that family meal, in that stillness, that the solution drops.
That's true.
You knowing your rhythm and understanding, because hibernation, as you say, Michael, yeah, there are those who've got houses by the beachside, and so that's where they hibernate. But for most of us, we're not yet there. So understanding your rhythm of that stillness And that's where you get those solutions and make those very beautiful and quality decisions. But also having the humility at the end of the day of knowing that the people around you, and that's why you truly need to be ruthless with who you allow in your environment or in your space. If you're wasting my time, you're not adding any value. We cannot be buddying or hanging around for the sake of. There's no pleasing people here.
That's true. Life is too short.
And plus I only have one shot at this life.
100%.
And unfortunately, I do not know for how long. I'm in my 40s. I don't know whether it will be up to my 50s or my 60s. It's only God who knows how. So we can't gamble with this thing of I'm entertaining you here for you to be happy with the fact that I'm entertaining you. My friend, every single day counts. And if you are in the day's schedule, it better make sense. It better make sense. Even if we're just lazing around, and let it be quality, not wasting each other's time, because seriously, where do people have the luxury of wasting time?
I know, that's true.
We don't have that luxury. So, and why don't we have that luxury? There's so much more to life, and understanding that life is a gift. How would you feel if I gave you, if I gave you a gift and I see you misusing it? How do you think I feel? I've invested in that gift. I've gifted it to you. That's what has happened with God. God has gifted us with a lifespan. He's expecting us to make the best use out of it. And then you have people here meandering around, wasting the gift, So understand your rhythm of how you're getting these solutions. And then be intentional with the people around you. Because, Michael, it could be that I want things to flow for others, but the people I have around me have become gatekeepers who now decide what flows and what doesn't flow. I think being bold, making very radical decisions, and knowing that we're not in this world to please people. We're in this world to achieve something. It's for a short period of time, get done, build our legacy, hand over the baton, and it keeps going.
Oh, fantastic. Something you've said that really one of our guests in our first show talked about tithing. We do financial tithes, but we do time tithe. Time tithe is when you say, it's not benefit, not financially, you understand?
Yeah.
Time tithe is saying, I'm going to remove myself from what makes me economic gain and tithe my time to something totally different.
Yeah.
Okay? So one of the things we all should consider, and I want to create time and spend some time with you, Teresa, in your business. How can I tithe time? I would like to spend and understand a little bit more about your business and see what can we do.
Yeah.
What more can we do? Because tithe timing is also giving your value on time to people who will benefit more than yourself.
Than you will.
Exactly.
Right? So let's think about how to tithe time as we also do financial tithing, right? That's something I learned. That also has been getting me. I've been thinking constantly. If I'm going to spend time, as you said, where people are just wasting my time, everything, we're just going around in circles, right? Think about it. Today we spent here. We this is our second shoot. I got here at 7:30 or 8. We done this, and we sat together at lunchtime, and we did this. To be honest, if you think about it, if we had started this a year ago, maybe again it's about time in flow.
Yeah.
At times on Saturdays I've done nothing. To be honest, I would have achieved this.
True.
We would have achieved this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It wasn't the right time.
Yeah, so you think, so again, as you say, it's about the right time.
Yeah.
And now as you conclude, there's some things you guys have said that validates that the conversations we're having are the right conversations. Olive talked about people who want to pull you down. And we have a topic called scarcity mentality. The crab in the barrel. Why do people want you to fail? And there's a reason. And we'll talk about it. That's one topic we're going to talk about at some point. Because we think, and we know why people want to fail, because it's a validation of themselves, of telling themselves, you look at idiot. Is that correct? Which is fine. Okay, number 2 is over-branded. When you realize, my God, I think I am too much in their face. These people hate me. They hate me because I'm successful. They hate me because Now I'm everywhere and everywhere. So even you need to take a Hibernate and say this brand of mine is becoming a liability for me. You have a topic like that called overbranded.
Okay.
How do you manage your brand when now you're in everybody's nose? And you did it not even intentionally. You became a superstar.
Just became that guy.
And that superstar becomes a problem for everybody. Is that correct? Yeah. What is this business? We have another topic called network effect. How do you build your network, which to work for you and against you?
Yeah.
And when does your network start working against you? It worked for you, but now it becomes a disaster for you. And you have to figure out, like, how do I navigate this situation? How do you also mitigate that network effect working against you? So you guys have talked about this. Talked about mental health. Those are big topic we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Something else talked about being a punching bag. Being the starter. You always be the first starter. Teresa and especially women have that challenge where you started a business and it doesn't go where people say, you see, should have just stayed home,
Exactly.
Where is she doing? Who does she think she is?
Who does she think she is?
Is that correct? Or even when you're young.
Yeah.
Or when you're young.
Changi? What does he think?
Yeah.
Who is he?
Wait your time.
Wait your time. You say, what is this business? So you know clearly if I fail, these people are going to be using me as SI reference of failure. Like, imagine. They use you as SI reference of failure. Ridiculous. And then we also have something called a conflicted soul. Where you ask your soul, like, my God, what is this I'm doing? This is so against my DNA. But unfortunately, you ask yourself, what do I do? You're caught between a rock and a hard place. What decision will I make?
Yeah.
You know that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in a position, you ask yourself, what is this?
Yeah.
This is not what I know. This is not what my parents taught me. It's not what I believe. It's not even in God's line of work. Why am I doing what I'm trying to do? And you ask, and then there's always this issue of look at the lesser evil. Then at some point, you don't even know what evil is anymore. You'll just be doing it. Yeah. So we have a topic like that. And finally, something called, he talked about the judicial system. And one of the topics we have there that we also talked to is when, as a founder, do you know the judicial system will work for you and will work against you?
Wow.
When do you know this one here?
Yeah.
The way the situation there is looking. Which rule book will follow?
Yeah.
Who will work for me here? Even if the judicial system is perfect, this place, this place is going to take me. And the one question I never asked, and I want to ask you guys not ask a question, leave with one thought process. When have you found founders using the judicial system to give them breathing space?
I think they do it all the time.
You do it all the time. Is that correct? Yeah. But also at the same time, the judicial system has also a place to help you hibernate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you could be going through bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And my friend, you don't know anymore what to do.
Yeah.
People are in your house auctioning you left, right, center. You say this company, to be honest, it's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to die with this company. You need to put it on there. On a banner called receivership. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you see many companies doing that of late. Because it reaches a point you realize this company is going to kill me.
Yeah.
As a founder. Is that correct? Maybe it's a dramatic way to put that 747 onto tarmac. We say, guys, wacha tuweke autopilot.
Yeah.
Let's jump out.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Autopilot, mtu atakuja achukue. Sio? Autopilot, utapeleka mtu. We leave somebody. The autopilot may land this thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, with that light note, let's say I really appreciate your time. And I hope you really enjoyed yourselves.
Yes, we
Yes.
did.
And
We did.
I think it's about sharing. And one day, Sichangi, you'll look at yourself, and this could be a turning point one day in your life, saying that day, the hard decision I made could have come from today.
Yes.
The decisions you look, somebody else may be thinking, my God, maybe I'm running too fast. I'm not sure. Somebody else could be somewhere in a barrel thinking, the only consolation for me, I need to take more alcohol to sort of numb me, right? And that person is thinking, maybe I'm losing it. Is that correct? So I guess our conversation today, 2.5 hours, may spark and build and help a lot of people out there that you don't know.
And I think
Right.
you actually need to have a conversation around drugs and alcohol and entrepreneurship, because business people indulge and overindulge in the name of networking, in the name of this and that. So even if you look at if you do a proper, honest review of your life, there are moments where you've used the guise of networking to go down, what
Is
I
that a
mean?
mental health problem? Because you see, it's a reflection. You only do
Yes, there
that
you
mental
go.
health. So in a mental health, by the way, another topic we're going to have is spirituality. Religion, spirituality, and good luck.
There's no such thing as
I
luck.
think it's good luck.
Or hope.
You're so hopeful you wake up every morning. So today I was quite fascinated that we spent time talking about religion, and I was hoping I was going to say, let me not cut it because it's going to pivot into another topic of religion. But that's another conversation for another day, because we really need to understand what is the role of spirituality in our success. All right? So with that, I really want to thank you. God bless you. And definitely looking forward to the next episode. And also encouraging many founders to step out and be in the ring like you guys, right? It's great, and I would really love to see more Gen Zs, more younger people become part of this movement, because the faster they jump into this, the better they're gonna. Because today, which other platform do we have that can help teach you? We're not telling you the solution. We're just giving you possible scenarios. Then from there, you can deduce for yourself. All right?
Yes.
So we want to close and thank everybody, and thank our guests, and close it for today. Thank you.